Chapter 147. The green and purple lights were the two low-grade spirit weapons, the Jade Dragon Sword and the Purple Gold Thunder Sword. As a martial scholar, Yen Zhaoge was unable to simultaneously wield two spirit artifacts, but he chose a more decisive method. While controlling his Jade Dragon spiritual sword, he directly landed the Purple Gold Thunder Sword, severing the connection between him and the spirit weapons. He borrowed the explosive force in the last moment to send both swords flying, slashing straight at Lin Zhou. Yen Shan's Purple Gold Thunder Sword. At such a close distance, be it parrying or dodging, Lin Zhou was caught unprepared. He didn't even have the time to activate his spirit weapon. He could only try his best to avoid being hit at the critical moment. However, the two wind thunder wings that extended from his shoulders were pierced by the two spirit weapons. As Yen Zhaoge's figure leapt, the aura wind heaven warping chi, broad Creed Mountain's direct lineage wind calamity movement technique, as well as the howling wind leaping technique of the tiger roar demonic fist, were executed simultaneously. With the three arts combining as one, Yen Zhaoge's figure was as swift as a gale of lightning as he instantly shot before Lin Zhou. Even with Lin Zhou's cultivation base as a mid-Xiantian martial scholar, as well as the Heavenly Thunder Hall's direct, lineage swift, and violent movement techniques, Yen Zhaoge was still instantly able to close in on him. Although he was a little gloomy, Lin Zhou did not lack the courage of a martial artist. Seeing that Ahu was being held up by the fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor, he let out a loud roar that was like a sudden clap of thunder. Lightning abruptly burst forth from Lin Zhou's hand, and a cyan blue long saber appeared in his palm. Impressively, it was also a low-grade spirit weapon. He brandished his saber, yet actually just like Yen Zhaoge had done earlier, directly striking down his own spirit artifact. The violent saber light broke apart the Jade Dragon Sword within Yen Zhaoge's palm. The Jade Dragon Sword vibrated and let out a dragon's roar. The sword light shone brightly as if it had a life of its own and clashed with Lin Zhou's flying thunder blade. While Lin Zhou threw the saber, his other hand was raised like a saber towards the sky, as if he was raising a saber. Along with this action, the ear-piercing sound of electric currents, zizi, resounded between heaven and earth. He released his energy. Like bolts of lightning, they condensed in the air to form a giant lightning saber that was more than 100 feet long. The violent purplish-blue light of thunder directly illuminated Yen Zhaoge's face, turning it purple. Heavenly Thunder Hall's direct lineage martial art, Wild Thunder Lightning Blade. Its speed might not be as fast as a martial artist of the same realm using the purple electric rainbow sword, but its momentum was more ferocious and domineering. Unlike back on Cloud Portent Mountain, when Jihanru had clashed with Yen Zhaoge, he had even felt that it was an unfair battle due to his higher cultivation base. Lin Zhou immediately used his full strength when he attacked. As the saber chopped down, bolts of lightning flashed, seeming to transform into an illusory world. The illusory world formed from stellar energy was filled with thunderclouds. Terrifying bolts of lightning slithered through the dark clouds and descended from the sky, making the entire world seem like a purgatory of lightning. His stellar energy, which had gained sentience, combined with his martial path, turned into an illusory world. This was the technique of a middle-stage Xiantian martial artist. Yen Zhaoge's expression did not change as the acupoints of his entire body shuddered simultaneously. Streaks of blazing hot aura chi that resembled fire dragons intermingled with streaks of icy cold aura chi that resembled ice dragons, rising together. Yen Zhaoge simultaneously struck out with both his hands, one executing the ocean-stabilizing spirit fist, the other executing the heavenly snake king fist. One active, one passive, one hard, one soft, communicating the changes of yin and yang indescribably wondrous. The combined attack of the turtle and the snake, the divinity of Xuanwu, the aura cheese of the blazing hot and icy cold meridians merged, their might powerful as never before. The power that erupted mightily broke through the illusory world formed of Lin Zhou's saber intent and aura chi. Lin Zhou's gaze was heavy and cold. After the ferocious saber, his style suddenly changed. A dazzling sword light lit up, not as violent as the saber light, but even faster. Purple electric rainbow sword. Unsheathing a sword, its speed was already at the peak. The purple electric rainbow sword executed by Lin Zhou, who had stepped into the mid-Xiantian martial scholar realm, was even faster and stronger than Yan Shan's. This was known to the world. The heavenly thunder hall's lightning flashing thunder. Lightning flashing being proficient in the sword, thunder rumbling being proficient in the saber. But now, Yan Zhaoge could confirm that Lin Zhou was truly suppressing Yan Shan in all aspects, breaking through the preconceived notions of others. This sudden sword of Lin Zhou's was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing one to be unable to guard against it. Even though their cultivation bases were similar, the threat it posed far surpassed that of Yan Shan, who was famed for his sword. The speed of this sword was so fast that Yan Zhaoge's vision was virtually unable to capture its trajectory. What was even more frightening was that as this sword of Lin Zhou's appeared, it was a short sword 2 feet long, spiritual light overflowing in all directions, shaking one's very soul. Shockingly, it was yet another low-grade spirit artifact. Even with the background of Lin Zhou and Yan Zhaoge, or even Xiao Shen from back then, to them who were still in the martial scholar realm, possessing 2 spirit artifacts was already an extraordinary thing. However, Yan Zhaoge had long since been on guard against Lin Zhou suddenly revealing his trump card. Above Yan Zhaoge's head, a dazzling golden light rose, resembling the rising sun. The radiant sun wheel that resembled the blazing sun collided head-on with Lin Zhou's cloud dust sword. Xiao Shun's radiant sun wheel indeed changed too many things. Lin Zhou's gaze turned cold, even as the purple electric rainbow sword arrived. He also punched out. Zizi, Zizi. With this attack of Lin Zhou's, his fist and arm were instantly filled with a dense net of thunderbolts, flickering brilliantly, resembling ghosts and divinities. Another direct lineage martial art of the heavenly thunder hall, the green thunder right heart fist. The radiant sun wheel and Lin Zhou's cloud dust sword mutually restricted each other, both collapsing outwards. Lin Zhou's fist, that resembled explosive thunder, directly arrived before Yan Zhaoge. Rumble! A sound that resembled explosive thunder resounded. Yan Zhaoge could only feel as though the heavens and earth before him were collapsing as a massive fist entwined with purplish-green lightning struck towards him. Yan Zhaoge's expression was calm, a bright light shooting out from within his eyes. Facing Lin Zhou's iron fist, Yan Zhaoge also punched out. However, halfway through his fist, Yan Zhaoge's arm suddenly shook. Resembling a divine dragon waving its tail, his arm shook. A flick, a flick. He had clearly merged the sword intent of his coiling dragon sleeve within his fist intent. Coiling dragon sleeve, divine dragon waving its tail. As Yan Zhaoge's arm shook, his body rotated, a massive compass beneath his feet abruptly twisting. The violent distorting force caused even the air beneath Yan Zhaoge's feet to have a charred smell. Just like this, Yan Zhaoge's fist smashed onto Lin Zhou's wrist, deflecting his green thunder right heart fist. Lin Zhou was shocked, wanting to change his stance, but Yan Zhaoge was faster than him. His body rotating, Yan Zhaoge's right fist smashed aside Lin Zhou's green thunder right heart fist. Making use of the force of its collision with the green thunder right heart fist, his body spun in the opposite direction at an inconceivable speed. His left fist swept out horizontally, resembling another massive dragon, swinging its tail as it mightily smashed towards Lin Zhou's temple. Twin dragons sweeping their tails. Lin Zhou roared loudly, his entire body's orochi surging madly as his bones emitted explosive crackling sounds. His body actually inconceivably abruptly grew taller by over an inch. At the same time, his body retreated at its greatest speed. However, the power of Yan Zhaoge's explosive force shocked the world. Even though Lin Zhou's reaction could already be considered extremely fast, he was still unable to completely evade this second divine dragon sweeping their tails. While he avoided his temple, his cheek was still brushed past by Yan Zhaoge's fist. Lin Zhou could only feel stars before his eyes as he felt slightly dizzy, one side of his face aching to the point of numbness, all of his teeth seemingly about to fly out of his mouth. Yan Zhaoge being stronger than he had expected, Lin Zhou's viciousness was also stimulated. Yan Zhaoge's brows twitched as he saw Lin Zhou not caring about taking that punch, directly kicking out from below, wanting to return a tooth for a tooth. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this time. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers and the overall selection of works on the 515 Fan Festival. Other than that, there are also some red packets and gifts for the Fan Festival. Collect them and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 148. A cold glint flickered within Yan Zhaoge's eyes as the sound of thunder exploding resounded from where the two had come into contact. His punch felt as if he had punched a mountain and was struck by lightning. His fist felt numb. The circulation of his qi and blood was impeded, and his entire fist felt as if it wasn't his own. It was similar to his right hand, although the divine dragon swings, its tail had deflected Lin Zhou's green lightning righteous fist. His right hand, which had come into contact with Lin Zhou's arm, was also paralyzed by the explosion of the lightning aura on Lin Zhou's fist. The martial arts of the Heavenly Thunder Hall were proficient in offense and not defense. As soon as one fell to a disadvantage, the disadvantage would only grow greater and greater. Lin Zhou, who had already lost the initiative, did not dare to continue retreating. He immediately launched a counterattack with a kick. He wanted to turn the situation around with a method that would cause both sides to suffer. It's not a martial art of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, but more like a variant of the flying dragon-chasing star kick of Before the Great Calamity. These thoughts flashed through Yan Zhaoge's mind like lightning. With a low snort, Yan Zhaoge similarly did not retreat, instead taking a step forward, raising his knee like a shield. All the muscles in his body were knotted, and under his skin, countless large tendons twisted together to support his skin, making his already tough skin even stronger. One of the 6 spirit demonic fists, the rhinoceros demonic fist. His fist theory was modeled after the primordial giant rhinoceros, an ancient demonic beast. Its defensive power was unparalleled in the world. Yan Zhaoge raised his knee, not retreating a single step as he forcibly took on Lin Zhou's dragon-soaring, chasing moon kick. At the same time, in a single breath, the numbness in his hands was alleviated, and his blood flow was restored. Yan Zhaoge's entire body's orochi surged, not giving Lin Zhou any time to catch his breath as his iron fist turned into a palm, a purplish-red color covering his palm. The Tushita palm continued to strike toward Lin Zhou's face. Lin Zhou crossed his palms. His second wave of counterattack had already been launched, but he helplessly discovered that the second wave of counterattacks had already been launched. Yan Zhaoge changed his moves even faster. With the two clashing like this, it would be him who would be struck by Yan Zhaoge first. Having tested the defensive power of Yan Zhaoge's spirit rhino demonic fist with a single kick, Lin Zhou had already clearly understood one thing. Although his realm was a level higher, if he were to exchange injury for injury, then he would definitely lose. On the contrary, he would suffer a greater loss. Lin Zhou's brows knit tightly as he could only retract his fist, raising his arm to block Yan Zhaoga's Tishita palm. With this, Yan Zhaoga's first mover advantage was completely secured. They were unforgiving when in power. Yan Zhaoga's following attacks resembled an unceasing chain of tsunamis, each higher than the previous as they enveloped the heavens and covered the earth as they struck towards Lin Zhou. Lin Zhou was also not discouraged or flustered, displaying a toughness that was rare amongst Heavenly Thunder Hall martial practitioners as he pushed his movement arts to the maximum, resembling the flickering silhouettes of lightning as he dispelled Yan Zhaoga's attack. The two of them stepped on the void, their figures flashing continuously in the sky and landing on the ground from time to time. He stomped on the ground, causing cracks to appear. The spiritual weapons of both sides clashed with one another, but on their bodies, precious weapons would shine. Spiritual light shot out in all directions, mutually restraining and neutralizing each other, exchanging blows. Yan Zhaoga's entire body surged with aura qi, emitting the roars of dragons and tigers, while Lin Zhou's aura qi contained the fierceness of the Heavenly Thunder Hall. It also displayed a heaviness that far surpassed Heavenly Thunder Hall martial practitioners of the same cultivation level. His aura qi that was filled with spirituality manifested as an illusory heaven and earth enveloped Yan Zhaoga, bringing with it an immense threat such that Yan Zhaoga was also unable to continue expanding his advantage. As the battle reached its climax, Yan Zhaoga's aura qi transformed into a sword. A Big Dipper sword that was exquisite to the extreme seemed to descend from beyond the heavens as it shot straight towards Lin Zhou's forehead. Lin Zhou's cold gaze suddenly turned blazing hot. His figure suddenly spun, a fierce, violent saber art, suddenly becoming soft and gentle as water. Amidst the all-encompassing thunderbolts, a stream of water suddenly appeared. That stream of water condensed into a single line, cutting through space, seemingly indestructible, yet also agile and ever-changing, its trajectory hard to predict. Yan Zhaoga's pupils abruptly dilated. Jade Sea City's one-line edge, the sea and the sky as one. Who dares to contend with it? The direct lineage martial art of the water domain's Jade Sea City, one-line edge. It had actually been executed by the direct disciple of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, Lin Zhou. It was not just an imitation, but a powerful martial art that had truly obtained its essence. While Yan Zhaoga had expected that Lin Zhou would definitely have a trump card, executing this one-line edge had truly surpassed his predictions. This was far more shocking to Yan Zhaoga than Lin Zhou executing some supreme martial art of pre-Great Calamity times that had already been lost in the Eight Extremities world. Yan Zhaoga's Big Dipper sword changed, resembling the 7 stars locking down the heavenly river, forcibly halting the strange, unpredictable attack of that water line. Making use of this chance, Lin Zhou finally obtained the chance to switch from defense to offense. The aura qi of his entire body abruptly skyrocketed, his left and right hands simultaneously, his aura qi transforming into saber and sword, one hand gripping the sword, the other wielding the saber. The undetectable rumbling of thunder resounded between the heavens and the earth. In the illusory heaven and earth formed of Lin Zhou's aura qi, other than all-encompassing thunder and lightning, there was nothing else. The Heavenly Thunder Hall's direct lineage lightning character Formula 72 swords and thunder character Formula 36 sabers were executed together. Seeing this, the expression of Ahu, who was stabilizing the eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment by the side, instantly changed. Thunder and lightning intersecting? How did he do it? The Heavenly Thunder Hall's supreme martial art, saber and sword combined, thunder and lightning intersecting. Ever since the Heavenly Thunder Hall had been founded, there had never been a martial scholar who could execute it. Lin Zhou had set a precedent. That illusory heaven and earth that was filled with thunder and lightning mightily exploded. Lin Zhou's gaze was cold to the point that it didn't carry any warmth at all. If no accidents happen, Yen Zhaoge, you would actually be a dead man soon. This world does not need your existence. Walk the path of destiny that you originally should walk. Sword light that resembled lightning and saber light that resembled thunderbolts suffused the entire sky within a radius of 1,000 meters. The two forces collided, causing the originally violent force to completely erupt in an instant. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoge's gaze was calm as he sucked in a deep breath. His fists came together in the stance of the ocean's stabilizing spirit fist. As the clear qi within his dantian surged, the chaotic qi mass abruptly shook. The aura qi that resembled dragons coiled within the acupoints of his entire body suddenly changed in unison. The aura qi that was blazing hot as fire, in an instant, completely transformed into an aura qi of cold ice, merging with those originally numerous streams of ice-cold aura qi. A layer of cold mist seemed to arise around Yen Zhaoge's body. The ice-cold aura qi that was vast as the sea propelled the ocean's stabilizing spirit fist. As Yen Zhaoge struck out with this move, his entire person seemed to have transformed into a bottomless, icy sea. It was incomparably quiet, incomparably cold, and even deathly silent. Everything returned to the bottom of the abyss, as if they had entered the land of eternal rest. As those violent thunderbolts descended, they were like clay oxen entering the sea for a time, unable to do anything to Yen Zhaoge. Even if there were saber lights and sword shadows that broke through the defenses of Yen Zhaoge's ocean-stabilizing spirit fist, they were forcibly withstood by Yen Zhaoge's body of steel tempered through the spirit rhino-demonic fist. The first spurt of energy, the second decline, the third exhaustion. Lin Zhou's lightning strikes were incomparably violent, but they left as quickly as they came. At this moment, the momentum of Yen Zhaoge's fist abruptly changed, the ocean-stabilizing spirit fist transforming into the heavenly snake king fist. From extreme stillness to extreme movement, it changed in an instant, yet it was perfect and free. It was as if a true dragon had ascended to the heavens after hiding in the abyss. As the chaotic qi mass within his dantian shook, once more, Yen Zhaoge's ice-cold aura qi instantly turned fiery hot as well. A violent force erupted in an instant, brazenly breaking apart Lin Zhou's saber and sword combination that had lost its sharpness. Yen Zhaoge strode forward, activating his aura fire qi as he simultaneously struck out with both hands, simultaneously executing the Tishita palm, striking towards Lin Zhou. Lin Zhou exerted all his strength in his legs and dodged backwards. He raised his arm in front of his chest to block the attack. Crack! Crack! Two muffled sounds resounded as the bones of Lin Zhou's left forearm were directly broken into three by Yen Zhaoge's two palms. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Fame for the Fan Festival, as well as the overall selection of works. Other than that, there will also be some red packets for the Fan Festival. Receive one and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 149. Yen Zhaoge simultaneously struck out with both his palms, causing Lin Zhou's left forearm to distort unnaturally, appearing somewhat twisted. Lin Zhou let out a low and miserable groan. He didn't dare to continue to face the attack head-on. His body borrowed the force of the impact to fly backwards. However, he was currently already completely thrown into disarray. Even as he retreated, he was still enveloped and locked down by Yen Zhaoge's aura. A wisp of a fierce expression flashed in the depths of Lin Zhou's eyes while his chest heaved up and down, and then a rain of blood suddenly sprayed from his mouth. The blood rain turned into mist in the air and enveloped Lin Zhou's body. The jade pendant at the center of Lin Zhou's waist suddenly lit up, its color turning from dark green to blood red. The jade pendant shattered, and a red light shone, wrapping around Lin Zhou's body. Instantly, he turned into a stream of light and flew towards the distant horizon. This speed was even faster than when Lin Zhou flapped his wind and thunder wings with all his might. Even a great Grandmaster-level martial sage would not be able to stop this sudden speed. Looking at the red light that had instantly vanished into the distance, Yan Zhaoge raised his brows slightly. "Oh, blood-transforming flowing like jade. Ah, you've already matured quite a bit, and your family background is quite deep. Compared to Yi Jing and Zhao Hao, you're more difficult to kill. If I want to kill you, I need to make some preparations in advance." Ah Hu, who was suppressing the sacred artifact fragment, asked with some worry, "Young master, we let him go." Miss Feng is at the Yin-Yang Cloud Spirit Spring on Cloud Portent Mountain. It's fine. Yan Zhaoge smiled slightly. "I was just intentionally trying to deceive him just now." Junior Sister Feng's side has actually reached the final stage. Even if she leaves the Yin-Yang Cloud Spirit Spring, it won't affect her much. As long as we don't delay here, we can immediately send a message back. Marshal Aunt Fu understands the situation and knows how to deal with it. Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes slightly. "I am rather interested in some of the things that he has displayed himself. To be honest, I was even somewhat mentally prepared for the fact that he could cast the thunder and lightning strike at the Grandmaster realm, but he actually knows Jade Sea City's one-line edge. This has truly surpassed my predictions. Thunder and lightning collided. No matter what, they were all martial arts of the Heavenly Thunder Hall. The martial arts derived from the flying dragon-chasing star kick could also be Lin Zhou's own fortuitous encounter, which could also be explained. Just like how Yan Zhaoge wasn't afraid of others asking him why he knew martial arts like the Six Spirits' demonic fist. The great calamity had caused the martial legacies to be severed. There were also many relics left behind, giving many opportunities to the martial artists of this era who were starting over. However, a single line edge was different. This was the direct lineage martial art of the current water domain's sacred ground, Jade Sea City. Also, it had been created by Jade Sea City's own martial practitioners, its legacies and pre-Great Calamity times being very shallow, being one of the crystallizations of the martial civilization of the current era. Lin Zhou's one-line edge. It was exactly the same as the current direct lineage of Jade Sea City. Finding an expert of Jade Sea City who was proficient in this martial art to execute, it would also be like this. This caused Yan Zhaoge to feel extremely interested. This fella, how did he learn the one-line edge? Who grinned widely. He's still thinking of leaking news of Miss Feng to Infinite Boundless Mountain and the Sacred Sun clan. Young master, if you leak this news to Jade Sea City will immediately find trouble with him. This time, the conflict between the Heavenly Thunder Hall and Jade Sea City has intensified. He can't deny it. If he doesn't admit it, young master doesn't need to say anything. I'll go perform the Blood Soul Recollection ceremony with him. Yan Zhaoge said, "Let's not talk about that first. The power fluctuations of the sacred artifact fragment are still very conspicuous. While Lin Zhou has come to try his luck, adding on Yen Shan from before, who knows if they might draw over other people of the Heavenly Thunder Hall. I'll first collect the Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment." Saying thus, Yan Zhaoge came before the Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment, once more clenching his hand into a fist, punching out. His fist didn't land on the sacred artifact fragment, as Yan Zhaoge used his fist intent to shake and merge it within. During this process, Yan Zhaoge's mind was also connected to the Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment. Before his eyes, a world filled with thunderbolts appeared. This place was far more realistic than the illusory heaven and earth formed of Lin Zhou's Orochi, and also much more terrifying. A single carelessness, Yen Zhaoga's soul and mind shattered here, his entire person becoming an empty shell like a walking corpse. However, the concept contained within was also boundless profundities. While it was incomplete due to the sacred artifact being shattered, looking at it, Yen Zhaoga comprehended many things. This was the most primitive power of thunderbolts, released in an instant, the power of life and death. As though accompanied by the sound of thunder, chaos was broken, the heavens and the earth split apart. Yen Zhaoga sucked in a deep breath. An instant's thunder, in an instant, combusting everything, concentrating all its power to be released in a single instant. The so-called instant, with the flick of a finger, was 60 instants. Eternity and an instant, the longest and shortest, the two extremes of time. Having comprehended eternity and an instant, one would also have comprehended the profundities of time. The concept of the Eye of the Thunder Emperor was to use the life and death of thunderbolts to deduce the birth and death of all things, the changes between the heavens and the earth, deduce the infinite profundities of time. Yen Zhaoga's palms abruptly came together, the Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment before him shaking, retracting the light of thunder. The purple orb that was even a little larger than a human fist began gradually shrinking in size before transforming into a bluish-purple light of thunder. Yen Zhaoga opened his eyes wide, focusing on the area before him. Then, the bluish-purple light of thunder before him slowly entered Yen Zhaoga's right eye. Yen Zhaoga let out a muffled groan, closing his eyes as he unconsciously covered his right eye with his hand. An uncomfortable feeling emanated from his right eye. Even with his eye closed, purple light still flickered unceasingly before his eyes. Yen Zhaoga even felt his head swell as though he was about to faint. Streams of refined qi that resembled electricity traversed within his body, causing it to feel numb. The acupoints of Yen Zhaoga's entire body pulsed, unceasingly inhaling and exhaling this refined qi of thunder. Within his Dantian's qi ocean, it circulated at an extremely high speed, dissipating and absorbing this refined qi. After a while, Yen Zhaoga opened his right eye, a violent purple light flashing past, shaking one's very soul. Quietly standing guard by the side. Seeing this, Ahu now said, "Young master, nourishing the sacred artifact fragment with your own body will be of great benefit to the fragment, as well as to your own cultivation. However, the danger involved is also extremely great." Still feeling a little uncomfortable in his right eye, Yen Zhaoga immediately closed it, slightly nodding, "You can rest easy. I know what to do. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go." The two quickly left the area, the few spirit artifacts scattered by the side also being collected by Yen Zhaoga, other than the sacred artifact fragment. This time, Yen Zhaoga had also obtained Lin Zhou's low-grade spirit artifact, the Flying Thunder Saber. TSK, the Radiant Sun Wheel, the Purple Gold Thunder Sword, and now the Flying Thunder Saber. I've collected quite a few signature weapons of my opponents. Yen Zhaoga smacked his lips, glancing in the direction of the Thunder Domain. "However, I am more interested in this. How much do you know about Maidens of Extreme Yin? Is it your own knowledge, or have you heard it from somewhere else? Thank you, everyone, for your support all this time. This time, I hope that you can support the Author's Hall of Glory and the general election of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Also, there are some red envelopes and gift bags for the Fan Festival. Take one and continue to subscribe." To be continued. Chapter 150. The situation on Feng Yunxing's side had already been decided. Even if the news leaked out, it wouldn't matter. Even if the Sacred Sun clan knew of it, it was also fine. The relationship between the two sides was already bad enough anyway. As for the thoughts of the other sacred grounds, other than infinite boundless mountain being somewhat vexed, they actually wouldn't be all that intense. At the end of the day, Broad Creed Mountain, who had always been a bystander in the extreme Een bout, finally possessed a maiden of extreme Een that belonged to them. Actually, it was just that they had the qualifications to participate in the extreme Een bout. The final ownership of the extreme Een crown would still have to depend on the results of the competition between the various maidens of extreme Een. Therefore, the one whom the other sacred grounds were most wary of was still the Sacred Sun clan's Mengwan. On the other hand, Feng Yunsheng, who had already wasted a lot of time and had just started her journey again, was hardly a threat under normal circumstances. To put it bluntly, if she had participated in the third extreme Een bout half a year ago, the result was very likely to have been at the bottom. Even if he went to participate in the fourth extreme Een bout half a year later, he would most likely still only be a spectator. This had nothing to do with Feng Yunsheng's talent. Rather, it was because she had lagged behind the others by too much. Meng Wan and the others were not easy to deal with. However, this was only relative to normal situations. Therefore, Yan Zhaoge was not too concerned about Lin Zhou guessing that Feng Yunsheng might have regained her extreme Een physique and might have leaked the news to the other sacred grounds. Comparatively speaking, Yan Zhaoge was more concerned about how Lin Zhou had come to know about it, because this meant that there was a possibility. Lin Zhou had also thought of a plan to strengthen and nurture the maiden of extreme Een with the Yin and Yang coexisting technique. In this way, the maiden of extreme Een of the Thunder Domain sacred ground would also rise powerfully. With regards to the extreme Een crown, even though they were allies, Lin Zhou and the Heavenly Thunder Hall would not inform the Sacred Sun clan out of goodwill. After all, Meng Wan was already the strongest maiden of extreme Een. But the problem was, if Lin Zhou figured out a way, how did he do it? No matter if it was researching the information left behind from before the Great Calamity. It was his own heaven-defying genius who had come up with a solution. If it was only his personal knowledge, Yan Zhaoge would actually not be too worried. However, if Lin Zhou had obtained the method through other means, that meant that the Sacred Sun clan could have obtained the method as well. Meng Wan was already in the lead. If it rose a step further, even Yan Zhaoge would feel a bit of a headache. With the extreme Een crown currently in Meng Wan's hands, Meng Wan's cultivation was already greatly boosted. Stroking his lower chin, Yan Zhaoge said to Hu, "Recently, I've been gathering intelligence. Pay more attention to the maidens of extreme Een of the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall." Ahu gave a silly smile. "Yes, young master." After meeting up with the retainers still lingering in the east-strangling snowy mountains, Yan Zhaoge and Ahu immediately set off for their return. Very quickly, Infinite Boundless Mountain received news that Broad Creed Mountain disciples had made use of the Yin Yang Cloud Spring on Cloud Portent Mountain to recover their extreme Een physiques. The two of them were now allies, so they naturally couldn't do something like killing each other's maidens of extreme Een. They would only find an excuse to send Feng Yunsheng out of Cloud Portent Mountain, forbidding her from setting foot here. If Broad Creed Mountain insisted on staying, Infinite Boundless Mountain might also not forcibly expel them, making use of this chance to repay Yan Zhaoge for restoring Cloud Portent Mountain's giant spirit magnetite vein. It was also a result that they could accept. However, having received Yan Zhaoge's message in time, Fu Enshu had long since arranged for Feng Yunsheng to finish up the final matters. Currently, facing those of Infinite Boundless Mountain, she was calm and unhurried, bringing Feng Yunsheng and Sikong Qing along as they took their leave, neatly returning to the Heaven Domain. While this result seemed pretty good, it caused those of Infinite Boundless Mountain to have a depressed feeling of having punched empty air. The Sacred Sun clan had also received the news, currently deciding to temporarily conceal their strength and bide their time. Nothing abnormal could be seen on the surface. However, the actual situation within was definitely not calm. at the same time as the news regarding Feng Yunsheng spread everywhere. The news of the Heavenly Thunder Hall's direct disciple Lin Zhou being proficient in Jade Sea City's supreme martial art, One-Line Edge, also spread throughout the entire world. Jade Sea City instantly erupted into an uproar, with even the Heavenly Thunder Hall being greatly shocked. Where the Thunder Domain and the Water Domain intersected, originally already having been in constant conflict, the two sides once again felt as though they could erupt at any moment. Having completely concluded the matter of Cloud Portent Mountain, Yan Zhaoge did not return there, instead heading south instead. The day of the new Heavenly Connection meet was already drawing near. This time's meet, Yan Zhaoge was prepared to participate as the meet of the Eight Extremities world's younger generation, with heroes congregating the various sacred grounds also attached great importance to it. In the past, generally speaking, the 6 sacred grounds would take turns hosting it. This time's Heavenly Connection meet, according to the sequence of turns, should be held on the territory of the Heavenly Thunder Hall. It was just that the current situation was far more tense than it had been before, with Broad Creed Mountain, Infinite Boundless Mountain, and Jade Sea City all unable to let their young heroes enter the Thunder Domain like sheep entering a tiger's den. Therefore, the final compromise was that the meet would be held in the Lake Domain. Turbid Wave Pavilion had always been neutral and impartial, with them hosting, whether it was the Sacred Sun Clan, the Heavenly Thunder Hall, or Broad Creed Mountain, they could all rest assured. However, even so, Turbid Wave Pavilion could only guarantee the safety of the external environment. It could be expected that the smell of gunpowder and blood in this Heavenly Connection meet would far surpass that of the past. There would still be exchanging pointers, but many people would probably directly aim to kill or cripple disciples of opposing clans in the process. While the Heavenly Connection meet would be held in the Lake Domain, heading to the Lake Domain would be an extremely long journey. Whether it was Broad Creed Mountain or the other sacred grounds, other than the young disciples participating in the meet, there would still be higher echelon experts of their clans leading them. It was just that this time, Broad Creed Mountain's representative was not Fu Enshu, but an even more heavyweight figure, one of the Broad Creed Mountain 3 heroes, the first seat elder of the assignment hall, Hidden Dragon Feng Zhuan, personally leading a team to the Lake Domain. Yan Zhaoge knew full well that this was the intention of his clan and Turbid Wave Pavilion to further communicate with one another. While Turbid Wave Pavilion had always been neutral, only guarding their own Lake Domain, and not interfering in external affairs, the current atmosphere of the Eight Extremities world was growing more and more tense. Turbid Wave Pavilion of the 6 great sacred grounds was an existence that could not be ignored by Broad Creed Mountain and the Sacred Sun Clan. In terms of geography, the Lake Domain bordered the Fire Domain and the Water Domain. Feng Zhuan still had a gentle, elegant appearance. Seeing Yan Zhaoge, he smiled and asked, "From your report, that pair of lightning flash and thunder rumble of the Heavenly Thunder Hall were all defeated by you?" Yan Zhaoge nodded. Yan Shan aside, Lin Zhou far surpasses the past. Proficient in both the sword and the saber, also having cultivated in thunder-lightning intermingling at the martial scholar realm. Also, his toughness is much stronger than that of ordinary Heavenly Thunder Hall martial practitioners. He should have had some fortuitous encounter, causing his aura chi to be vigorous, its thickness far surpassing that of his peers. Of course, there's also Jade Sea City's One-Line Edge. Feng Zhuan said, leisurely, but I don't know how he learnt One-Line Edge. Yan Zhaoge smiled slightly at Feng Zhuan's level. This was indeed the first thing he was concerned about, because it would involve the conflict between the 2 sacred grounds, and not just the strength of the younger disciples. Comparatively speaking, even Lin Zhou's cultivation in thunder-lightning intermingling, while shocking, was also slightly less important. Feng Zhuan looked at Yan Zhaoge. you have not returned to the mountain all this time. For your previous trip to Cloud Portent Mountain, the rewards that you deserve will all be given to you this time. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers and the overall selection of works during the 515 Fan Festival. Other than that, there will also be some red packets and gifts for the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue your subscriptions. To be continued. Chapter 151. Hearing Feng Zhuan's words, Yan Zhaoge's eyes lit up slightly. The new Broad Creed Divine Pill has been refined. With the results of their trip to the mountain domain being remarkable, Broad Creed Mountain would naturally not be stingy with their rewards for Yan Zhaoge. Amongst them, discovering the talent of Ying Longtu was not a small contribution. Broad Creed Mountain would always reward the martial practitioners who had recommended geniuses into their clan, and Ying Longtu, in terms of innate talent alone, was undoubtedly a genius amongst geniuses, a monster amongst monsters. Yan Zhaoge having discovered its uniqueness, not letting it be a lost treasure, not letting a pearl be covered in dust, he would naturally be rewarded by Broad Creed Mountain. This reward was the most outstanding pill that Broad Creed Mountain currently possessed, the Broad Creed Divine Pill. This pill was too rare and precious, with no completed product having been left behind previously. Therefore, when Yan Zhaoge had remained at Cloud Portent Mountain, he had not been able to obtain it. Now that the new pill had been concocted, other arrangements would naturally be made, but the old clan chief Yuan, Zhang Feng, still first guaranteed that Yan Zhaoge's pill would be given priority. Heading to the lake domain to participate in the Heavenly Connection meet this time, Feng Zhuan had brought it along with him to Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge received the porcelain bottle from Feng Zhuan's hands, pulling out the stopper and sniffing it lightly. Instantly, a refreshing fragrance that refreshed the heart and refreshed the mind wafted out. Thank you, second apprentice uncle. Yan Zhaoge smiled as he bowed towards Feng Zhuan. Feng Zhuan shook his head. These are all things that you deserve. That child Ying Longtu is indeed a martial genius. While his mind is still not mature, it can already be foreseen that his future will be limitless. My Broad Creed Mountain has gained yet another hero. However, compared to obtaining Ying Longtu, your other contributions are more worthy of praise. Participating in the Heavenly Connection meet with Yan Zhaoge this time also included Si Kongqing. Traveling together with Feng Zhuan, she had been brought along by Feng Zhuan to meet with Yan Zhaoge here. Feng Yunsheng had successfully recovered her extreme yin physique. Returning to Broad Creed Mountain with Fu Enshu, he began his first secluded cultivation session. Looking at Yan Zhaoge, Si Kongqing's gaze was currently also filled with some admiration. She wholeheartedly focused on martial arts and did not care much about other things. Even if he did, it was to hone his martial arts. Therefore, comparatively speaking, Yan Zhaoge's achievements in the martial Tao in recent years had left her more in awe. However, Yan Zhaoge's trip to Cloud Portent Mountain, this time, had also caused the usually undistracted Si Kongqing to be somewhat moved. Whether it was using the yin-yang cloud spirit spring to help Feng Yunsheng recover her extreme yin physique, or solving the problem of the giant spirit magnetite vein at Cloud Portent Mountain, they were not ordinary contributions, but contributions that could decide the fate of the world. Such an achievement, logically speaking, was not something that a martial scholar could accomplish. Even with Yan Zhaoge's background, it was the same. However, Yan Zhaoge had really done it, helping Feng Yunsheng regain her extreme yin physique. As a result, Broad Creed Mountain possessed its own maiden of extreme yin, able to contest for the sacred artifact, the extreme yin crown. Not only did it solve the problem of infinite, boundless mountain's giant spirit magnetite vein, it also caused the mountain domain's sacred ground, infinite, boundless mountain, to owe Broad Creed Mountain a huge favor. Even more so, Infinite Boundless Mountain had taken the initiative to enter the fray, completely shedding all pretenses of cordiality with the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall as they entered the fray, clashing with the Heavenly Thunder Hall with true swords and spears. From then on, Infinite Boundless Mountain would no longer be able to sit on the fence, yet they still couldn't say anything wrong about Broad Creed Mountain on the surface. Indeed, as Fang Juan had said, compared to their gains, it was currently only Ying Longtu with his shocking potential. The significance of these two achievements of Yan Zhaoga's were even greater. Thinking of the reward that the clan had given Yan Zhaoga as a result, even Si Kongqing could feel the weight of it, helping Feng Yunxing regain her extreme yin physique. The reward that Yan Zhaoga had obtained, other than a chance to enter the 4th level of the martial repository, he had also obtained the right to freely enter and exit the 3rd level of the martial repository. In the entire Broad Creed Mountain, there was only one such right amongst its core, direct disciples. At the same time, martial scholars had obtained such a right. In the entire history of Broad Creed Mountain, this had only ever happened twice before. And of those two, one was called Zhan Donga, the other Yen Di. Having resolved the problem of the giant spirit magnetite vein, having facilitated Infinite Boundless Mountain's entry into Broad Creed Mountain's camp, the reward that Yan Zhaoga had obtained was a little more practical, but also more shocking. From the day that the reward had come into effect, of all the various resources and treasures that Broad Creed Mountain controlled, other than a few unique treasures, Yan Zhaoga would have priority in using them all. This was definitely something that would shock anyone who heard of it. Even the numerous elder-level bigwigs of the clan did not have such a right, or perhaps only had such a right within a certain range. This reward had even been personally decided by Yan Zhaoga's Grand Master, the old clan chief Yuan Zhengfeng, to the extent that some insiders joked that if not for the fact that his cultivation was still shallow and his seniority too low, looking at this situation, Yan Zhaoga would even be able to compete with his father for the position of the next clan chief. Yan Zhaoga was also extremely satisfied with this. This meant that from now on, not having to rely on his father and the Yan family, he would also be able to obtain extremely abundant resources. If it had only been the matter of the giant spirit magnetite vein, Yuan Zhengfeng might not have made this decision the next time. This was actually the cumulative result of having unearthed the internal crystal furnace, the golden needle liberating pill technique, the Battle of the Eastern Tang, as well as helping Feng Yunxing regain her extreme yin physique, and solving the problem of the giant spirit magnetite vein. In the eyes of Yuan Zhengfeng and most of Broad Creed Mountain's higher echelon decision-makers, Yan Zhaoga was already no longer someone who could be measured by an ordinary disciple of the younger generation. From what Yan Zhaoga knew, there were even people who suggested that, in order to avoid any accidents, he should not be allowed to participate in this time's Heavenly Connection meet, lest he be ambushed and killed by hostile forces. This was out of good intentions, but Yan Zhaoga had his own thoughts. Of course, he would also pay attention to his own safety and raise his strength. The eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment within his right eye provided an oceanic amount of pure, refined thunder and lightning chi in an endless stream, unceasingly tempering Yan Zhaoga's body. Fang Juan glanced at Yan Zhaoga. That eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment is your own fortuitous encounter. If you are not willing to exchange it with the clan, you can keep it for yourself. Still, you have to pay attention to your safety. Yan Zhaoga had already reported this matter to the clan's seniors. Even if he did not say it, Lin Zhou would also help spread the news to the entire world. Therefore, Yan Zhaoga did not hide it from the clan. Of course, there were some details that did not need to be mentioned. Yan Zhaoga answered, "Second apprentice uncle is right. I will pay attention to it." Fang Juan continued, "Eldest apprentice brother brought that small metal plate with him to the North Sea, bringing back some gains." Yan Zhaoga's interest was piqued. Is there really something related to the Earth domain? After careful examination, there indeed is. However, the details still require further research. Fang Juan said, simply, there is also a portion of the Glacial Dragon Martial Saints collection that year. However, it is not the most central thing of the rumors, and there is also no trace of a sacred artifact. The things that we have obtained now, perhaps there are clues to the future. This is a fortuitous encounter that belongs to you. After your cultivation has improved in the future, you can find some time to deal with it. Yen Zhaoga nodded. I will have to trouble eldest apprentice uncle and second apprentice uncle. Fang Juan waved his hands. It's fine. Saying thus, he handed over a diagram to Yen Zhaoga. Along with the diagram was also an ice blue jade coin. Receiving the diagram, Yen Zhaoga infused his aura chi within. The diagram instantly emitted a blue light as well as waves of cold chi. Within that ice blue jade coin, there was also a large amount of abundant, refined chi compared to the glacial dragon bone soul. It was faster in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality, it seemed to be even more outstanding. Thank you everyone for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the Authors Hall of Glory as well as the general selection of works during the 515 Fan Festival. Other than that, there are also some red packets and gift packs for the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 152. Keeping the diagram and the jade coin, Yen Zhaoga asked Fang Juan, second apprentice uncle, senior apprentice brother Su, didn't travel with you? Due to various reasons, only 3 of Broad Creed Mountain's core, direct lineage disciples were participating in the Heavenly Connection meet this time. As for the others, from what Yen Zhaoga knew, ever since Lu Wen had been defeated by him in the Big Dipper Sword, he had immediately entered secluded cultivation, having yet to emerge even now. The 3 people participating in this time's Heavenly Connection meet, other than himself and Sikong Qing, was Shi Tai's disciple, Heavenly Rock Su Fei. Fang Juan said, it has been some time since Su Fei left the mountain, and he is currently traveling around the lake domain. He has already received the news, and will be rushing directly to the location of the Heavenly Connection meet. Yen Zhaoga nodded, setting off along with Fang Juan and Sikong Qing, who also accompanying them. If they wanted to head to the lake region from where they were, they would need to pass through the Earth region. Fortunately, after what happened earlier, although the Earth domain was still a wasteland, it had calmed down a lot. With Fang Juan's cultivation base, it would not be a problem if he did not enter too deeply, merely passing by. Led by Fang Juan, Yen Zhaoga, Sikong Qing, and who passed through the Earth domain within the sky. Looking at the vast land down below, shrouded in black fog and deathly stillness, having transformed into a hell on earth, the 3 were all silent, their hearts filled with sorrow. Yen Zhaoga was no stranger to the Earth domain that he had personally entered, as well as the environment of the sealing dragon abyss. Still, this was the first time Yen Zhaoga was able to look down from such a high vantage point. Look at him. It is indeed related to the demons of the netherworld. Sure enough, this place is just like the East China Sea, with a crack leading to another world. Yen Zhaoga pondered. It is just that the East Sea leads to the Flame Devil world, while this leads to the 9 underworlds. Yen Zhaoga knit his brows. A haze flashed across his eyes. 9 underworlds. On the way south, someone suddenly appeared in front of him. Sensing Fang Juan's arrival, the other party cautiously turned around. After recognizing Fang Juan, he instantly relaxed somewhat as he halted, waiting for Fang Juan and Yen Zhaoga's group. Looking over, Yen Zhaoga saw that their leader was a green-robed old man with a haughty expression on his face. He had once seen him as well. It was precisely that longtime elder of Jade Sea City who had arrived at the Eastern Tang that day during the Battle of the Eastern Tang. Beside the arrogant old man were a few young men, all of them full of energy. Yen Zhaoga gave it a rough look. He immediately recognized that they were all elites of Jade Sea City's younger generation, some of whom he had even met face-to-face in the Heavenly Connection meet 3 years ago. Jade Sea City's trip to the Lake Domain, this time to participate in the Heavenly Connection meet, was clearly led by this wild-looking old man. Seeing him, Fang Zhuan smiled. Elder Chen, you are also heading to the Lake Domain? Why are you going through the Earth Domain as well? The continent of the 8 extremities world was divided into 8 domains, the locations of which were roughly as follows. The Heaven Domain and the Earth Domain were in the middle. The Wind region was in the west, the Water region in the east, the Thunder region in the northeast, and the Mountain region in the northwest. The Fire Domain was in the southwest, the Lake Domain in the southeast. From the Water region to the Lake Domain, Jade Sea City could go by land or by sea from the east, not having to borrow the Earth Domain like Broad Creed Mountain of the Heaven Domain. I just happened to be bringing them along for a tempering in hell earlier. That Jade Sea City Elder Chen answered. Time being a little tight, I decided not to return to Jade Sea City. Directly heading south from the Earth Domain, this old man should still be able to protect a few juniors. Fang Zhuan smiled. Elder Chen is too modest. This naturally wouldn't be a problem for you. Looking at Yen Zhaoga, Elder Chen's gaze was filled with admiration and shock. He's actually already a Xiantian martial scholar. I caught a glimpse of him from afar in the eastern Tang, not having thought that the Central Heaven region's Yen family would produce yet another true dragon, not only possessing shocking talent in the martial Dao, even being able to stir up the major powers of the world. Yen Zhaoga bowed to Elder Chen. Senior overpraises me. Still, are you sure that the Heavenly Thunder Hall's Lin Zhou is really proficient in my Jade Sea City's one-line edge? Elder Chen directly asked. Are you sure that he is of the direct lineage? Yen Zhaoga nodded, answering, I can be sure. If Lin Zhou doesn't admit it, ask him if he dares to do the blood soul recollection ceremony. I can do it at any time. With the discerning abilities of your clan's experts, they should be able to completely confirm it. Elder Chen's face was rather gloomy. That kid is hiding and not showing his face, feeling guilty to the extreme. Yen Zhaoga smiled because he can't deny it. Wanting to verify it, it would be too simple. Elder Chen gazed towards the north, precisely in the direction of the Thunder Domain, his face overcast. This matter is not over. It will have to be investigated clearly sooner or later. Fang Zhuan said, since we've met and are also heading in the same direction, if Elder Chen doesn't mind, let's travel together. Elder Chen nodded. Of course. The bigwigs of both sides brought their people along, the younger generation disciples of the 2 clans also meeting. A tall, burly youth with a rather coarse appearance sighed as he looked at Yen Zhaoga. Junior apprentice brother, Yen has really made the world sigh in admiration this past year. Yen Zhaoga did not stand on ceremony as he smiled. Low-key, low-key. That youth pointed at him, smiling. You call this low-key? Then what do you look like when you're not low-key? Yen Zhaoga smiled, but did not answer, pointing at that youth and introducing him to Si Kongqing. This is Jade Sea City's senior apprentice brother Yi, known as Yi Zhongzhou, Black Flood Dragon. He is 28 this year. I heard that he broke through a bottleneck a few days ago, his fist intent and Orochi able to manifest an illusory heaven and earth, already stepping into the mid-Xiantian martial scholar realm. He is a good friend of our clan's senior apprentice brother Su, a friendship formed through drinking, of Broad Creed Mountain's direct disciples. While Yen Zhaoga was not on good terms with Lu Wen, his relationship with Su Fei was rather good. And he was also rather familiar with Yi Zhongzhou, right? He has a strange beast known as the Black Water Mysterious Dragon. Its quality rather good. Sadly, its master is too lazy, always unable to properly feed it. senior apprentice brother Ye's nickname was also derived from this strange beast of his. Yi Zhongzhou pretended to glare at Yen Zhaoge resentfully. I only have this little bit of wealth, and it was all sold off by you cleanly. Similarly joking, Yen Zhaoge put on a roguish face. I said it right in front of you. This is called being open and above board. If you feel that I said something wrong, you can just correct me on the spot. Yi Zhongzhou shook his head helplessly. You mischievous fellow. Xikong Qing greeted Yi Zhongzhou, while Yi Zhongzhou also introduced his junior apprentice brothers and sisters of Jade Sea City to Yen Zhaoge and Xikong Qing. The group traveled together, led by Fang Zhuan and Elder Qin, very quickly traversing the Earth domain, arriving at the Lake domain. With heavyweight figures like Fang Zhuan and Elder Qin arriving, Turbid Wave Pavilion naturally had bigwigs to welcome them. Coincidentally, just having arrived, they saw that infinite boundless mountain martial practitioners had also just arriving right after Yen Zhaoge and the others. As Yen Zhaoge's gaze swept over, he saw a few infinite boundless mountain disciples there, one of whom was clearly Zhao Hao. Seeing Yen Zhaoge, Zhao Hao's gaze instantly hardened, turning cold. However, what Yen Zhaoge paid more attention to was the other rather older infinite boundless mountain disciple beside Zhao Hao, who looked to be around 30 years of age. The other party's gaze, as he looked over, was filled with aggression, even a little savagery, resembling that of a bloodthirsty, ferocious beast. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, during the Rising 5/15 Fan Festival's glorious hall, as well as the final selection of works, I hope that you will all be able to support us. Also, during the Fan Festival, there will also be some red packets. Receive them, and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 153. While Zhao Hao had not made a move, listening carefully to his breathing, Yen Zhaoge could tell that his internal organs had already been cleansed by his aura qi. With such abundant stellar energy, it was very likely that he could already form a wall of qi within his body. In other words, the current Zhao Hao was at least at the pinnacle of the middle inner aura stage. It was even possible that he had already stepped into the late inner aura stage. Compared to half a year ago, when they met on Cloud Portent Mountain, he had once again improved by leaps and bounds. Having nearly blown up his clan's giant spirit magnetite vein in Cloud Portent Mountain, Zhao Hao's days in Infinite Boundless Mountain should have been very difficult. However, he had now clearly already become a core, direct disciple of Infinite Boundless Mountain, having even successfully surpassed Ho Xiang, who was close to his age, being brought by Infinite Boundless Mountain to participate in the Heavenly Connection Meet. It could be seen that he had still managed to obtain Infinite Boundless Mountain's attention. After all, leaving aside his knowledge of alchemy and medicine, Zhao Hao's cultivation level was already very outstanding compared to his current age. Plus, his speed of improvement was shocking. Although he almost made a huge mess in a major event, as a junior disciple, his martial talent was worthy of any Holy Land's attention. Zhao Hao's gaze focused on the spiritual light that shot to the skies above Yen Zhaoge's head. He really reached the Xiantian stage, comparing it to what he knew of Yen Zhaoge's previous cultivation base, as well as his recent rate of improvement. Zhao Hao also felt slightly shocked. Yen Zhaoge had not just suppressed him in the Golden Needle Liberating Pill technique or the restoration of the giant spirit magnetite vein. In terms of martial arts cultivation, he was also extremely talented, causing even the most knowledgeable person to be amazed. However, although he was slightly shocked, Zhao Hao was not nervous. He retracted his gaze from Yen Zhaoge. Martial cultivation. The higher you go, the slower your progress will be. As for the realm, I will soon catch up to you. Zhao Hao laughed coldly in his heart. Beating you is like beating a dead dog. Regarding Zhao Hao, Yen Zhaoge didn't care too much about him. Sweeping his gaze past him, he looked at the other Infinite Boundless Mountain disciples. There were a total of 4 infinite boundless mountain core, direct disciples who had come to participate in the heavenly connection meet this time. Jihanru was there as well. From what Yen Zhaoge knew, after having been defeated by him at Cloud Portent Mountain, Jihanru had been in secluded cultivation. Originally already at the peak of the early Xiantian martial scholar realm, just before coming to the Alliance meet, he had successfully broken through his previous tranquility, stepping into the mid-Xiantian martial scholar realm. The other youth was of similar age to Yen Zhaoge, being older than Zhao Hao. He was younger than Jihanru. Her eyes shone with intelligence and a friendly expression on her face as she smiled and nodded towards Yen Zhaoge and the others. Yen Zhaoge thought for a moment, matching the other person's appearance with the information in his mind. This youth was called Xiaoyu, also a core, direct disciple of Infinite Boundless Mountain. His cultivation talent was extremely high, and it was even rumored that in terms of talent and comprehension, he was currently second to none amongst Infinite Boundless Mountain's younger generation. It was just that this person did not have much enthusiasm for cultivation. He did not do anything for 3 days and dried the net for 2 days. However, his talent was really outstanding. Even if he was not that focused, he was still an elite of the younger generation. As the other party expressed his goodwill, Yen Zhaoge also smiled and nodded, which could be considered as returning the gesture. That Xiaoyu appeared very happy. Swiveling his head, he said to Ji Hanru beside him, "Senior apprentice brother Ji, look, it's very simple. There are no problems that cannot be solved through communication. First, with a good atmosphere, it will be even easier." The corners of Ji Hanru's mouth twitched. He turned his head, not speaking. Yen Zhaoge was involuntarily rendered speechless, but his attention also did not linger on Xiaoyu and Ji Hanru for too long. Beside them, that oldest Infinite Boundless Mountain disciple seemed to be smiling whilst also not, as he looked over with an unfriendly gaze. Looking at that Infinite Boundless Mountain disciple, Yen Zhaoge raised his brows slightly. By the side, Yi Zhongzhou snorted a little miserably. Infinite Boundless Mountain has let that madman Lu Shengfeng out this time. Lu Shengfeng, a direct disciple of Infinite Boundless Mountain, was of the same age as Su Fei and Tang Yonghao. It was just that as compared to the other disciples of Infinite Boundless Mountain, Lu Shengfeng's notoriety was known to be vicious and merciless in his actions, having a brutal temperament, liking to torture and kill his opponents, especially liking to bully the weak, often liking to kill martial practitioners whose cultivation bases were lower than his for no reason at all. Therefore, in recent years, Infinite Boundless Mountain had often restricted Lu Shengfeng from going out alone. However, his talent was indeed outstanding, being second to none amongst Infinite Boundless Mountain's martial practitioners of the same age, being especially proficient in actual combat. Many a time, Infinite Boundless Mountain loved and hated him at the same time, giving him an endless headache. Lu Shengfeng's gaze shifted back and forth between Yen Zhaoge and Yi Zhongzhou. Baring his teeth, he wanted to stride forward. Beside him, Ji Hanru's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly said to Yi Zhongzhou, "Jade Sea City's senior brother Yi, right? I've long heard of your name. Please do not be stingy with your guidance." Saying thus, he directly punched out towards Yi Zhongzhou. Lu Shengfeng glanced coldly at Ji Hanru, his somewhat unfriendly gaze moving back and forth between Yen Zhaoge and Yi Zhongzhou, finally coming to rest on Yen Zhaoge. Xiaoyu laughed towards the heavens, rushing forward. "Senior brother Yen Zhaoge? I am Xiaoyu. This is the first time we've met, and I have some questions regarding that Thunder Element revival art. Please guide me." Lu Shengfeng's face revealed an expression that looked like he was smiling whilst also not, his hands behind his back, as he finally halted. However, Yen Zhaoge noticed that the light within his eyes was giving off a feeling of threat. Yi Zhongzhou and Ji Hanru were also acquainted, and could similarly feel that while Ji Hanru's attack was aggressive and threatening, it actually did not have any malicious intent at all. You can also be considered to have put in a lot of effort. Yi Zhongzhou shook his head somewhat helplessly, sending a sound transmission to Ji Hanru with his Orochi as he moved to receive Ji Hanru's attack. Ji Hanru said in all seriousness, having just stepped into the mid-Xiantian martial scholar realm, "I seek guidance from senior brother Yi." As the two clashed, there was no anger in them, but the clash between the direct disciples of Jade Sea City and Infinite Boundless Mountain was still exceptionally spectacular. After Feng Zhuan and Elder Chen had arrived, they had met with the bigwigs of Turbid Wave Pavilion and Infinite Boundless Mountain. As for the sparring between their disciples, as long as it was not especially out of line, they would not interfere much. The Heavenly Connection meet was originally a gathering of the heroes of the world, a clash between geniuses. As Yan Zhaoga and Xiao Yu chatted idly, their expressions suddenly changed slightly as they looked in another direction. The gazes of Ah Hu and Lu Shengfeng also similarly looked in that direction. A young man speedily approached, first nodding towards Yan Zhaoga, Lu Shengfeng, and the others before coming to the place where Yi Zhongzhou and Ji Hanru were clashing. This man interlaced his hands, his arms drawing a circle in midair, sweeping up circles of Orochi that resembled waves which simultaneously enveloped Yi Zhongzhou and Ji Hanru. An illusory heaven and earth formed of Orochi appeared in the air, resembling a muddy swamp. Yi Zhongzhou and Ji Hanru instantly felt as though they had sunk into a swamp. The two had not been fighting to the death in the first place, as they immediately stopped. However, the newcomer was also only a mid-Xiantian martial scholar. However, his vision was accurate, his force used skillfully, his timing perfect, as he instantly separated the two of them. Looking at that youth, Yan Zhaoga identified him. Wanping? That Wanping separated Yi Zhongzhou and Ji Hanru, saying, "Coming to my Turbid Wave Pavilion, you are all guests from afar. Please allow my clan to play the role of a host. The Heavenly Connection meet will officially begin very soon. Why the rush? Thank you everyone for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers and the overall selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, there will also be some red packets and gift packs for the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 154. Wanping looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. He was handsome and had an extraordinary appearance. He was one of the direct core disciples of the Lake Region's sacred ground, Turbid Wave Pavilion. He was proficient in the Lake Region's secret martial arts and had extraordinary skills. However, what Yan Zhaoga was more concerned about was that, as far as he knew, this brother seemed to be rather infatuated with the Sacred Sun clan's Meng Wan. Although the age gap between them was about 10 years, this did not affect Wanping's enthusiasm. It was just that over the past half year or so, the situation in the Eight Extremities world had suddenly changed as the relationship between the sacred grounds had become tense. Turbid Wave Pavilion, who had always remained uninvolved, was clearly even more sensitive to every single movement. Although Wanping was a disciple of the younger generation, as one of the core disciples of Turbid Wave Pavilion, if he was still the same as before, he would be extremely conspicuous. It was unknown whether the elders of the sect had specially reminded him, or if Wanping had restrained himself, but his behavior in recent days seemed to indicate that his feelings for Meng Wan had gradually faded. His gaze sweeping over Lu Shengfeng, Yan Zhaoga, and the others, Wanping nodded slightly. "Please follow me." Lu Shengfeng smiled, retracting that wolf-like gaze that had always been appraising Yan Zhaoga, and Yi Zhongzhou, being of similar age to Wanping, Yi Zhongzhou had long been acquainted with him. He immediately said, Wanping, it's rare for us to come here. You must bring us to see the famous Clear Concealed Lake. Clear Concealed Lake, located in the northwest of the lake region, was the venue for the Heavenly Connection meet this time. This area was covered in clouds and mist all year round, but as the clouds and mist on the surface of the lake changed, the scenery was extremely beautiful. As the clouds moved about, it seemed to contain boundless truths of the heavens and the earth, and it was capable of giving birth to all sorts of wonders. All the martial artists in the world yearned for it. Turbid Wave Pavilion martial practitioners frequently came here to comprehend the Tao and cultivate. As the host of the Heavenly Connection meet this time, Turbid Wave Pavilion had also arranged for the venue to be here. Wanping smiled. Of course, you may move about freely, but our sect's elders have set up an array formation on the lake's surface. If you are free to move around, you need to be careful. Don't touch the array formation's restrictions. Yan Zhaoga and Sikong Qing, under Wanping's lead, the people of Jade Sea City and Infinite, Boundless Mountain stepped into the waters of Clear Concealed Lake. Stepping on the water's surface, Yan Zhaoga surveyed his surroundings, only feeling carefree and relaxed. As the clouds and mist drifted, the mist and the lake water seemed to be constantly intertwining and changing. The boundary between the heavens and the earth seemed to have become blurry. As Yan Zhaoga glanced over, a lake appeared within the sky, while the clouds seemed to have transformed into a lake. Could it be that Turbid Wave Pavilion's flowing water illusory cloud force came from this? Yan Zhaoga looked rather interestedly at the scene before him. Beside him, Sikong Qing also did the same. Yi Zhongzhou and the others who had accompanied her also looked at Sikong Qing with faint smiles. Beside Yi Zhongzhou, a girl in her early 20s sighed softly, a person who is infatuated with the martial way. The girl was named Li Jingwan, also a heaven's favored son of Jade Sea City's younger generation like Yi Zhongzhou, her age being similar to that of Yan Zhaoga, and Xiaoyu. Her facial features were like a painting. Although she wasn't as elegant as Sikong Qing, she was still a rare beauty. Unlike Yi Zhongzhou, who was loud and unrestrained, Li Jingwan appeared very gentle as she looked curiously at Sikong Qing. Along the way, Sikong Qing appeared extremely quiet. Other than greeting them, she didn't say a single word. No matter what happened, she followed Yan Zhaoga's pace. However, whether it was Yi Zhongzhou or Li Jingwan, they could both tell that Sikong Qing wasn't someone without a mind of her own, only seeming to be afraid of trouble. This young lady seemed to have devoted all of her attention to cultivation. She did not intend to, or even disdain to, allocate her time elsewhere. Although she still understood the basic ways of the world, she wasn't someone who was good at socializing. Her mind wasn't on this at all. Yi Zhongzhou smiled. Outstanding talent, and also dedicated. The heavens will not mistreat her. Li Jingwan said, "That's right, so young, and already at the peak of the late inner aura martial scholar realm. I heard that around half a year ago, when clashing with Infinite Boundless Mountains, Hoxiang in the mountain domain, she was still a mid-inner aura martial scholar. Such a rate of improvement is truly frightening." The terrain here was vast, the small islands within the lake dotted densely like stars in the sky. Treading on the water, the group very quickly arrived at the central region. Within Clear Concealed Lake, the few largest islands were here. The main island, Clear Concealed Island, was where the Heavenly Connection meet was being held. Ascending Clear Concealed Island, there were naturally disciples of Turbid Wave Pavilion to welcome the guests, arranging for them to their respective lodgings. The architectural style of this place was filled with the scenery of the lake domain, with numerous small bamboo buildings erected there, arranged in picturesque disorder. After settling them down, Yan Zhaoga exited the bamboo building, walking towards the surface of the lake once more. Coming to the surface of the lake, traversing amidst the clouds. Yen Zhaoge gradually closed his eyes, leisurely walking on the surface of the lake. Following behind Yen Zhaoge, Ahu did not disturb him. His attention was mostly placed on the surrounding environment, preventing anyone from disturbing Yen Zhaoge or from creating any sort of danger. At this moment, however, he wasn't in the mood to comprehend the profundities of Clear Concealed Lake. Only when the heavenly connection meet officially began, and Yen Zhaoge participated in it, would Ahu come out alone to wander about. Although his eyes were tightly shut, Yen Zhaoge's spiritual sense had been magnified to the maximum, the acupoints of his entire body nimbly pulsing, absorbing and exhaling the surrounding spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth. At the same time, he was also feeling the spiritual chi flow of Clear Concealed Lake, feeling the unique, miraculous aspects of this treasured land. After walking for a while, Yen Zhaoge halted, standing silently and unmoving as he extended his hands forward, slowly moving them about amidst the clouds. After a while, Yen Zhaoge set off once more, continuing to tread on the water. After walking a certain distance, he once more stood still, unmoving. Just like this, the movements of his hands continued unceasingly. The surrounding clouds around Yen Zhaoge were swept along by him, gradually forming a mass of chi that grew larger and larger, moving along with him. Observing the changes in the clouds and water of Clear Concealed Lake, it has indeed given me some other ideas regarding my own martial Tao. Yen Zhaoge pondered. Having stepped into the Xiantian stage, spirituality has been born in my aura chi. Having reached the mid-Xiantian stage, the aura chi will form the illusory heavens and earth, further developing the changes between real and illusory, probing into the secrets of the heavens and the earth. Within this, perhaps there are some things that I can make use of. As he pondered, Yen Zhaoge was suddenly slightly taken aback. Following closely behind him, Ahu asked, "Young master, what's wrong?" Yen Zhaoge narrowed his eyes slightly, surveying their surroundings. This formation seems to have changed. Ahu was unable to make heads or tails of this, a blank expression appearing on his face. Yen Zhaoge did not continue speaking. Formations, like the Tao of alchemy and artifact forging, were all relatively independent theories of knowledge closely related to the martial Tao. However, a martial practitioner's cultivation base did not completely determine their attainments in formations. Also, the changes in the spirit formation that enveloped Clear Concealed Lake were very small, not being obvious at all. While Ahu's cultivation base had already reached the heavenly connection stage, he had never dabbled in formations before. Therefore, it was not strange that he could not see through it. To Yen Zhaoge, formations were also his weakness, but that was only in comparison to his other abilities. Compared to other martial scholars, Yen Zhaoge's attainments in formations were similarly outstanding. Moreover, Yen Zhaoge just happened to be specially improving himself in recent days, being exceptionally sensitive to matters related to formations. At this moment, he very quickly sensed the abnormality. Yen Zhaoge stroked his lower chin. Tisk, is this the after effect of infinite boundless mountains spreading the news back then? Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers, as well as the general selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, there will also be some red packets and gifts for the Fan Festival. Receive them, and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 155. In terms of the clan's overall interests, the recovery of the giant spirit magnetite vein had been a great boon for Infinite Boundless Mountain. However, having completely broken off their relationship with the Heavenly Thunder Hall as a result, having lost their original advantageous position of being able to attack and defend as they pleased, personally entering the fray, to Infinite Boundless Mountain, their initiative in the overall situation would undoubtedly be damaged. Helplessly, they had no other choice. Therefore, while those of Infinite Boundless Mountain had very rationally made the decision to ally with Broad Creed Mountain and Jade Sea City, standing against the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall. However, as for Yen Zhaoga, who had brought about all of this in the eyes of Broad Creed Mountain, he was a great contributor, while in the eyes of Infinite Boundless Mountain, their feelings were very complicated. While there was no evidence whatsoever, there were quite a few people of Infinite Boundless Mountain who deeply suspected that it was Yen Zhaoga who had deliberately dug a huge pit for them that they had no choice but to jump into. Therefore, starting half a year ago, some rumors regarding Yen Zhaoga had begun to spread from the mountain domain, praising him as being rare in the heavens and hard to find on the earth. Let alone those of the current younger generation, and those of the same generation as Yen Zhaoga, even Yen Zhaoga's father, Yen Di, who had suppressed his generation that year, seemed inferior to that aura. Participating in the Heavenly Connection meet this time, Yen Zhaoga had long since been mentally prepared that there would be quite a few people attempting to gauge his worth. Infinite Boundless Mountain's Lu Shengfeng was the number one person. It must have been hard for Infinite Boundless Mountain to have been able to suppress this ferocious beast from coming to find them when he had remained at Cloud Portent Mountain. What was worthy of Yen Zhaoga's attention was that as his name had become more and more resounding over the past year, the experts of the Eight Extremities world's younger generation had gradually begun to overlook his age and cultivation base. Because Yen Zhaoga's actual battle accomplishments were too glorious, he had easily killed Xiao Shun, who was of the same level as him, and defeated Chao Yuanlong, who was of the same level as him. He had also defeated Ji Hanru, who was of the innate stage, while at the late Outer Aura Grandmaster realm. The results of the fight between Lin Zhou and Yen Shan had already spread. Many of the opponents were old and had been cultivating for a long time. They were all much higher than Yen Zhaoga. Also, all of the aforementioned people were elites amongst the Eight Extremities world's younger generation, and martial practitioners of the same cultivation level, geniuses who drew the attention of the entire world. Any one of them would be able to compete with most of the martial artists of the same realm in the 6 great holy lands. It was possible for them to crush their opponents, or even challenge those of a higher level. However, these geniuses had all been defeated by Yen Zhaoga. Of the entire Eight Extremities world's current younger generation, Yen Zhaoga had such glorious battle achievements. They were all at the top. Earlier, because of Ji Hanru and Xiao Yu, Lu Shengfeng had not been able to make a move. However, Yen Zhaoga had not thought that in participating in the Heavenly Connection meet, his first opponent would be someone from Turbid Wave Pavilion. After all, with the current situation of the Eight Extremities world being as turbulent as it was now, Turbid Wave Pavilion's neutral stance was still very stable. His hands behind his back, Yen Zhaoga raised his head and surveyed his surroundings, carefully feeling them. He was no longer trying to comprehend the principles of heaven and earth. Instead, it was to distinguish the operation of the array formation and the spiritual chi network. And from the looks of it, he only wants to dampen my momentum and sharpness, more of a probe. Yen Zhaoga pondered for a moment before the corners of his mouth arched slightly upwards. The formation in front of him was naturally not just a simple mist. The formations set up by the senior martial practitioners of Turbid Wave Pavilion, if they really encountered an invasion from outside, would display a powerful might to resist the incoming enemy. The formation in front of him had only changed slightly. It didn't possess much killing power. Trapped within, Yen Zhaoga would at most be lost, unable to walk out of Clear Concealed Lake, also unable to return to Clear Concealed Island at the center of the lake. Of course, it was also precisely because the changes in the formation were slight that even a Heavenly Connection martial practitioner like who was unable to detect it immediately. Also, if the changes in the formation were too great, it would immediately alarm the the martial grandmaster experts of Turbid Wave Pavilion here, as well as Fang Zhuan and the others, making use of the geographical advantage to set up the formation, its foundation still being this clear, concealed lake's boundless variations of clouds and water. Yan Zhaoge smiled nonchalantly, striding forward once more. It was just that as he advanced this time, the rhythm of his footsteps became exceptionally strange, sometimes even going backwards. As he walked, Yan Zhaoge's entire body's aurachi surged, the lake water beneath his feet rippling unceasingly. Accompanied by his breathing, the surrounding cloud chi congregated and dispersed unceasingly, momentarily seeming to have the feeling of surging winds and surging clouds. With Yan Zhaoge as its center, a hurricane arose on the surface of the lake, moving alongside Yan Zhaoge. Wherever it passed, the lake water, clouds, and mist all became chaotic. The hurricane's momentum expanded unceasingly, beginning to spread into the surroundings. Following closely by Yan Zhaoge's side, Ahu opened his mouth wide as he looked at this scene. After a while, he grinned. Fighting with my young master? On clear, concealed island, within a bamboo house, at the center of the hall stood a massive mirror that was as tall as a person. The surface of the mirror that resembled ripples of water shockingly displayed the scene on the surface of the lake. Wan Ping was currently standing before the mirror, expressionless as he looked at the scene displayed on it. His demeanor was still the same, his appearance extraordinary, just that he was not as gentle as before, a sharp, sharp glint appearing within his gaze. Only at this time did he reveal some of the competitive look of a youth, looking at the Yan Zhaoge in the mirror. After pondering for a moment, Wan Ping extended his hand, wanting to touch the mirror. Just before it, his hand suddenly paused slightly. Then, someone else pushed the door open and entered. It was two girls, both dressed in the same green garb as Wan Ping's direct disciples of Turbid Wave Pavilion. The two girls both wore bamboo hats on their heads, a light veil hanging down, concealing their faces. The tall girl walking in front took off the bamboo hat on her head, revealing a generous, candid face. Her facial features were only above average, but had her own demeanor. Seeing her, Wan Ping retracted his hand, nodding slightly. "Thank you, senior apprentice sister." The Turbid Wave Pavilion female, disciple surnamed Xia, also came before the mirror. Glancing at the scene within, she instantly knit her brows slightly. "Junior apprentice brother Wan, why do you have to do this?" These days, hearing his name so much that calluses are about to form in my ears, Wan Ping smiled slightly. "So I'm trying to see if his reputation is not undeserved. From the rumors, he is very versatile. So I want to see how his attainments in formations are. This is actually just as well. Without really having to fight, we can also exchange blows. I also don't intend to make things difficult for him. If he really is trapped within the formation, after a period of time, I will personally enter the formation to bring him back to clear concealed island." That senior apprentice sister, Xia, glanced deeply at Wan Ping. "The clan seniors have already come to a unanimous decision not to interfere in the conflict between Broad Creed Mountain and the Sacred Sun clan. Why do you have to make things difficult for junior apprentice brother? Yen, you can't be doing this for Meng Wan, right?" Wan Ping smiled. "I admit that I cannot forget about the Sacred Sun clan's junior apprentice sister Meng. But even more so, I will not forget that I am a disciple of Turbid Wave Pavilion. Even if I have the intention of seeking the Phoenix, it would also be to be able to bring that Phoenix back here, and not for me to enter the door myself. Instead, senior apprentice sister Xia, protecting that Yan Zhaoge like this, it can't be because of that senior apprentice brother Su of Broad Creed Mountain?" The female disciple, surnamed Xia, said mildly, "The decision of the clan's seniors, I will strictly abide by it, separating public and private matters. Moreover, senior apprentice brother Su is extremely confident in junior apprentice brother Yen. not needing my care. She looked at Wan Ping. I'm reminding you to remind you that it is still not too late to stop now. Otherwise, the one who will suffer a loss will be you. Thank you everyone for your support all this while. This time, during the Rising 5 Fan Festival's glorious Hall of Fame and the final selection of works, I hope that you will all be able to support us. Also, during the Fan Festival, there will also be some red packets. Receive one and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 156. Let's charge forward together. Charge! Charge! Wan Ping raised his eyebrows at the woman's words and turned to look at the mirror. Within the mirror, as Yen Zhaoge strode forward, winds and clouds instantly surged on the surface of the lake. As Yen Zhaoge walked, his gaze swept the surrounding area, suddenly stopping in a certain direction for a moment. Within the bamboo house, before the mirror, Wan Ping's heart jumped. The Yen Zhaoge, within the mirror, was currently clearly looking straight at him, separated by the formation, separated by layers of scenery. The two of them seemed to have passed through the distance of space. Yen Zhaoge looked over, smiling slightly. Wan Ping instantly knit his brows tightly. Separated by the formation, Yen Zhaoge was actually still unable to see him. However, this scene meant that Yen Zhaoge could clearly sense that someone was monitoring him through the formation. Looking at Yen Zhaoge's strange rhythm within the mirror, suddenly advancing and suddenly retreating, Wan Ping, who was extremely familiar with formations, immediately saw that Yen Zhaoge had the ability to walk out of the formation on his own, returning to clear concealed island. Accompanied by Yen Zhaoge's movements, roiling winds and clouds were actually reversely affecting the formation. With Yen Zhaoge's current cultivation base, if he didn't enter the core of the formation and didn't touch the foundation of the formation's treasures and spirit patterns, wanting to directly shake such a massive formation would still be beyond his capabilities. However, if this were to continue, the changes to the formation would become greater and greater, and very soon it would alarm the senior experts of Turbid Wave Pavilion. Fang Zhuan and the others were all present. Turbid Wave Pavilion was strictly neutral, having never intended to form enmity with Broad Creed Mountain in the first place. If the matter was brought to the elders of the various clans, using a formation to make things difficult for them, Wan Ping would inevitably be reprimanded. Moreover, he was currently completely unable to do anything to Yen Zhaoge. If they were to continue increasing the power of the spirit array and form a killing array, Xie Yuchan would be the first to object. Xie Yuchan said calmly, "You wanted to test out junior apprentice brother Yan's attainments in formations, and now it can be said that you have achieved the desired result." Wan Ping was silent for a moment before he smiled and said, "He is indeed extraordinary. He lives up to his reputation." After saying that, he reached out and wiped the surface of the mirror. The image on the mirror disappeared. Meanwhile, within clear concealed lake, Yen Zhaoge suddenly smiled slightly. He could feel that the earlier abnormalities of the formation had already disappeared. Yen Zhaoge laughed lightly, his footsteps slowing as the winds and clouds stirred by his aura qi also gradually calmed. Who followed behind him and gave him a simple and honest smile. "Young master, is the other party afraid?" Yen Zhaoge shrugged. "It can't be said to be cowardly. Turbid Wave Pavilion and our clan originally had no conflict at all. While some people are bored and looking for trouble, there will always be people who are not as bored as him." Very quickly, the clouds before them suddenly dispersed, as two women, one tall and one short, wearing bamboo hats and dressed in green, walked over on the water, arriving before Yen Zhaoge and Ahu. The tall woman took off her bamboo hat, revealing a rather ordinary but elegant face. It was Xie Yuchan, junior apprentice brother. Yen also has great attainments in formations. Xie Yuchan smiled. "Just now, my hands were itching, and I played a joke on you. I'll apologize to you here. Please don't take it to heart. Looking at Xie Yuchan, Yen Zhaoge blinked, smiling. Senior apprentice sister Xie is too serious. It was just a small matter. How could I blame you? If senior apprentice brother Su knew, I would be in trouble. But next time, you should at least give me a heads up. I wasn't prepared at all just now. Not only did Yen Zhaoge recognize the woman before him, he was also rather familiar with her. Xie Yuchan, one of the peak descendants of Turbid Wave Pavilion's younger generation, a late Xiantian martial scholar even stronger than Wan Ping, only half a step away from the heavenly connection stage. Currently close to 30, in the eyes of the secular world, she was already an old lady. However, with Xie Yuchan's talent and potential, and the cultivation realm she would be able to attain in the future, according to her longevity, 30 years of age was nothing much. In the Eight Extremities world, there were also many female martial practitioners who remained unmarried for their entire lives. Yen Zhaoge could also be considered to be familiar with her, but this friendship, like with Yi Zhongzhou, also originated from Yen Zhaoge's fellow disciple, the heavenly rock, Su Fei. Xie Yuchan shook her head, laughing in spite of herself. Junior apprentice brother, Yen, must be joking. The last time I met senior apprentice brother Su, he was praising you for bringing face to Broad Creed Mountain for an entire day. Oh, an entire day? Yen Zhaoge chuckled. There's something going on. Xie Yuchan pointed at him. She swiveled her head to look at the short girl by the side. This is my junior apprentice sister Zhang Yao. You haven't met her yet. Get to know her. In the future, when little Yao travels outside, if you meet her, please take care of her. That short girl had already long since taken off the bamboo hat with a light veil on it, revealing a round, cute face, looking about the same age as Si Kongqing. Zhang Yao, who had always been appraising Yen Zhaoge curiously, now hurriedly bowed. Turbid Wave Pavilion's Zhang Yao, greetings senior apprentice brother Yen. Yen Zhaoge smiled, returning the greeting. Junior apprentice sister Zhang, nice to meet you. Xie Yuchan said, All right, junior apprentice brother, Yen, do you still want to comprehend the Tao on the lake? Yen Zhaoge answered, Earlier, I already had quite a few gains. What's left is for me to settle and sort through. There's no need for me to continue staying on the surface of the lake. However, I've heard that in the region of clear, concealed lake, other than the few main islands in the central region, there are other beautiful sceneries that I would like to go take a look at. At the same time, there are some treasures that can only be found here. If your clan doesn't mind, I would like to collect some of them. Xie Yuchan said, Naturally. Since that's the case, we'll bring you around for a stroll. Yen Zhaoge smiled. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister Xie and junior apprentice sister Zhang. Traveling together, Yen Zhaoge was like entering a treasure vault within clear, concealed lake, his gains being rather abundant. It was just that his gains were mostly things that only he himself knew about. In the eyes of others, they didn't seem all that special. As they walked, a strange-looking bird suddenly flew over the surface of the lake, traversing through the layers of clouds, accurately finding Yen Zhaoge, Xie Yuchan, and the others. Looking over, Yen Zhaoge saw that the bird resembled a big goose, but was much smaller in size, its entire body fiery red, exceptionally striking amidst the dense clouds. This should be the fire goose that your clan has reared, able to freely traverse the clouds of clear, concealed lake, even being able to accurately find your clan's disciples, its flying speed extremely fast, making it convenient for communication. Yen Zhaoge smiled as he sighed in praise. I've heard of it for a long time. Finally seeing it today, it indeed lives up to its reputation. Xie Yuchan said, I've let junior brother, Yen see a joke. She extended her arm, that fire goose circling and landing on it. Xie Yuchan took off a note tied to the bird's claw. Looking at its contents, she raised her brows slightly. Oh, a Pichio actually appeared in the vicinity? When the elder of Turbid Wave Pavilion received the news, the matter wasn't urgent and didn't require experts of a higher level to specially rush over from clear concealed island. Through the formation, they could generally confirm which disciples of their clan were in the vicinity before sending word to someone nearby to deal with it. Xie Yuchan and Zhang Yao just happened to be in the vicinity. Judging that Xie Yuchan had the ability to deal with it, the elder of Turbid Wave Pavilion had sent word over via the Fire Goose. I said that I would be junior brother Yan's guide, but something just had to happen. Xie Yuchan looked at Yan Zhaoga. However, a Pixiu is rarely seen. Is junior brother Yan interested in going with us? Yan Zhaoga smiled, nodding. If senior sister Xie permits it, I also just happen to want to see this strange beast whose name I've heard of, yet have never seen before. They immediately set off, very quickly arriving on a small island nearby. As Yan Zhaoga and the others ascended the island, someone had already arrived in the forest on the island. This person didn't show himself, instead quietly watching Yan Zhaoga and the others walk over to the island. He was also very surprised, but quickly retracted his gaze, preventing Yan Zhaoga and the others from sensing him and discovering him. A dangerous light flickered within this person's eyes, a cold smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. It was clearly infinite, boundless mountain disciple, Lu Shengfeng. Thank you everyone for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers, as well as the overall selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, there are also some red packets and gifts on the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue subscribing. To be continued. Chapter 157. On the way, Zhang Yao secretly sent a voice transmission to Xie Yuchan. That's right, senior sister Xie. It was clearly senior brother Wan who did it. Why are you taking responsibility for it? Xie Yuchan answered. Don't be fooled by junior apprentice brother Yan's humorous demeanor in front of you and me, but he is actually a person who doesn't care about sand in his eyes. Now that junior apprentice brother Wan has provoked him, he will definitely seek revenge. Similarly, while junior apprentice brother Wan may look peaceful, he is actually extremely arrogant and competitive. It is even more impossible for him to lower his head to junior apprentice brother Yan. The final result would only be a clash between them. Our clan does not intend to interfere in the matters between the Sacred Sun Clan and Broad Creed Mountain. While we do not fear the two of them, we also do not want to take the initiative to provoke them. If we can resolve this small matter, that would be for the best. Otherwise, if it becomes a big matter, who knows what the final outcome will be? Zhang Yao nodded. It's just that senior sister Xie has taken the blame for senior brother Wan. Xie Yuchan smiled. Junior apprentice brother Yan is an understanding person. The truth of the matter could not be hidden from him. It was just that he still gave me some face. When I gave him a way out, he immediately accepted it and pretended not to know anything, not pursuing the matter any further. I see. Zhang Yao suddenly understood. After a slight hesitation, she said, I just hope that senior martial brother Wan can understand senior martial sister's painstaking efforts. Xie Yuchan sighed. I hope so. Ascending the small island, Yan Zhaoga observed its environment rather interestedly. This place was filled with bamboo forests, and the weather conditions were similar to that of clear, concealed island. The area was slightly smaller, and it was closer to the edge of clear, concealed lake. Yan Zhaoga had indeed never personally seen the so-called Pixiu. There were images of the Pixiu, but coincidentally, Yan Zhaoga had never seen them before. There were innumerable strange beasts in this world, and there were also many that Yan Zhaoga did not recognize. But the name of this thing, Yan Zhaoga had heard of it before. It's huge, almost like an elephant. It's quiet and doesn't like to move. It has a gentle temperament and doesn't like to fight. He was rather lazy, but He was extremely strong and had boundless strength. His mouth could swallow gold and iron, and he was even more talented. It can control black water and white fire. The Pishio that had appeared at Clear Concealed Lake this time around was rumored to still be in its infancy. However, its strength was so great that ordinary martial scholars would not be able to contend against it. Although Pishio had a gentle temperament and didn't like to fight, they had a very bad habit of gluttony. They ate a lot and didn't have any thoughts of moderation. If left unchecked, it might very well be like locusts passing through, completely eat up a place. On Clear Concealed Lake, everything from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to the grass and trees were closely related to the formation. Of course, the formation wouldn't be destroyed after the Pishio devoured an entire island. However, it wouldn't be good to let it continue eating like this. Thus, after a turbid wave Pavilion Jr. disciple discovered it, he sent a message back to Clear Concealed Island. Clear Concealed Island then contacted Xie Yuchan, who was nearby, to deal with it. Seeing Yen Zhaoge and Ahu traveling together with Xie Yuchan and Zhang Yao, that disciple was slightly taken aback. However, he still quickly went forward to explain the situation. Therefore, Yen Zhaoge, Xie Yuchan, and the others immediately entered the dense forest of the island. Traversing the dense sea of bamboo, the expressions of Yen Zhaoge and the others changed slightly as they could vaguely feel it. There was a big guy in front of them. Yen Zhaoge and the others exchanged glances. It should be that Pishio. Before they had finished speaking, the expressions of Yen Zhaoge, Ahu, and Xie Yuchan all changed slightly. What the hell is that big guy doing? In the depths of the sea of bamboo, intense spiritual chi fluctuations suddenly emanated, as though a massive vortex had appeared, stirring up the spiritual chi of the entire island as it surged towards its center. Raising his head and gazing over, Yen Zhaoge saw that the clouds in the sky up above were all beginning to tremble slightly. It was the formation that enveloped the entire Clear Concealed Lake being affected, being stimulated, and activated. Ahu rubbed the back of his head. From the looks of it, it feels like this Pishio is about to advance. Yen Zhaoge nodded. That's most likely the case. Xie Yuchan strode forward. Let's go take a look at the situation. If the conditions allow it, it's best not to interrupt its advancement. As they traversed the sea of bamboo, a barren, empty space suddenly appeared before their eyes. Without having to ask, it was obvious that it had been forcibly eaten out by that beast. Gazing over, Yen Zhaoge saw that in the center of the empty space, there was a massive clump of light. The color of that clump of light intermingled black and white. Looking carefully, it was clearly a jet-black stream of water and white flames merging together, rotating rapidly as they formed the shape of a sphere. The splendor of black and white flickered unceasingly, the water and fire clashing, yet appearing exceptionally harmonious. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoge nodded repeatedly, and not bad, not bad. Yin and yang coexisting and blending together, drawing inspiration from the heavens and the earth, obtaining the profundities of nature. It is indeed extraordinary. While there are innumerable beasts in this world, this Pishio can also be considered a rare and precious species. The spiritual chi fluctuations gradually stabilized, but were actually even stronger than before. The Pishio before them was clearly about to complete its advancement. That ball of light, the unceasingly rotating black water and white flames, also gradually grew thinner, revealing the true form of the beast within. However, Yen Zhaoge's expression was gradually turning sluggish. That senior apprentice Sister Xie, twisting his rather stiff neck, Yen Zhaoge asked Xie Yuchan by the side. This is the legendary Pishio. Xie Yuchan nodded matter-of-factly. That's right, these beasts are extremely rare. only being found at the border between my lake domain and the fire domain. They are not found in your heaven domain. If you have not seen a diagram before, it's fine. There's a living one right here. Does junior apprentice brother Yen intend to tame and rear this beast? Xie Yuchan asked. This is also not impossible. Yen Zhaoge was a little dazed. While its size was much larger than he remembered, it was still in its infancy, resembling a small elephant. However, the beast before them was clearly a giant panda that had been greatly magnified in size. Of the four of them, Zhang Yao, with the lowest cultivation base, carefully looked at that massive beast. While it's still young, it has such great power. No wonder some villages in the wilderness of the secular world still worship the Pishio as a totem. Totem! Yen Zhaoge opened his mouth, while the expression on the face of who beside him was solemn. Young master, this beast is very strong. If it is proficient in utilizing its own strength, it can at least be comparable to an early Xiantian martial scholar, perhaps even stronger. Not knowing whether to laugh or to cry, Yen Zhaoge nodded after a while. Yes, I can also see this, just that I had never thought of it before. Looking at the giant panda before him, Yen Zhaoge, who had just regained his wits, also felt a slight surge of heat in his heart. He had a good impression of pandas. Pishio, although the one in front of him might be a little different from the one in his memory. Raising such a big fella was still rather interesting. The only problem was how to use it. This left Yen Zhaoge rather scratching his head. It would be a waste to keep it as a pet, but it would be weird to order it to fight. As for being a mount, the corners of Yen Zhaoge's mouth twitched as a scene surfaced within his mind. I will cause the internal crystal furnace to reappear in this world. Your mount is a panda. I will bring the golden needle liberating pill technique back to the world. Your mount is a panda. I will restore infinite boundless mountains giant spirit magnetite vein. Your mount is a panda. I can beat martial artists of the same realm into submission. No one can match me. Your mount is a panda. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the Authors Hall of Glory as well as the general selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, there will also be some red packets for the Fan Festival. Receive one and continue your subscriptions. To be continued. Chapter 158. Your mount is a panda. The mount is a panda. It's a panda. Panda. A voice seemed to reverberate unceasingly within Yen Zhaoge's mind, causing him to involuntarily roll his eyes. Actually, you have quite a personality. The attention-grabbing effect will definitely be off the charts. It's very eye-catching and unconventional. But what's with this comfortable and shameful mentality? Rubbing his temples, Yen Zhaoge smiled bitterly as he looked at the giant panda before him. Forget it, even if it's just raising it as a pet, while its appetite is a little bigger. It's also very pleasing to the eye. Being in charge of acting cute, it's also pretty good. Using it to pick up girls, it should also be a great weapon. The corners of Yen Zhaoge's mouth curled upwards as he thought, rather unscrupulously. He turned his head to look at Xie Yuchan. Senior Sister Xie, to tell you the truth, this beast is quite to my liking. I wonder if your sect is willing to part with it. At the end of the day, Clear Concealed Lake was Turbid Wave Pavilion's territory. Encountering this giant panda this time was also because it had followed Xie Yuchan over. Hearing his words, Xie Yuchan smiled. Apart from rearing fire geese and a few other variant beasts for sending messages and transportation, our clan rarely rears variant beasts. Even if you hadn't mentioned it, I would only have sent this Pishio out of the vicinity of Clear Concealed Lake to prevent it from affecting the formation. If junior apprentice brother Yen wants it, you can naturally capture it. If you need my help, just say the word. However, I think it won't be difficult for you and this brother beside you to capture this Pishio. Just do it. hearing the other party not mentioning the matter of the transaction. Allowing him to hunt as he pleased, Yen Zhaoge smiled slightly. "Thank you for your kindness, senior apprentice sister. I thank you first. I will definitely repay you in the future." Xie Yuchan was very generous. Yen Zhaoge naturally wouldn't treat him unfairly. Calculating for a moment, he already had a plan. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to take down this giant panda first. Yen Zhaoge beckoned to Ahu. Ahu gave a simple and honest smile, instantly rubbing his palms together, preparing to walk towards the center of the empty space alongside Yen Zhaoge. Now, however, Yen Zhaoge's gaze suddenly hardened as he vaguely felt the aura chi of a martial practitioner fluctuating in the distance. Beside his ear, there seemed to be a faint twang of a bowstring. The enemy's target wasn't them. Suddenly, from another direction, an arrow was shot towards the panda in the middle of the clearing. Looking over, Yen Zhaoge saw that in the direction from which the arrow had come, a middle-aged man stood within the bamboo forest, a greedy look on his face as he stared at the giant panda in the middle of the empty space. He's not from Turbid Wave Pavilion. He is also a warrior of the innate Grandmaster realm. The martial practitioners of the Lake Domain obtained the permission of Turbid Wave Pavilion to enter this clear, concealed lake to seek fortuitous encounters. He didn't notice us. However, I noticed that big guy and got greedy. He should only be at the early stage of the Xiantian realm. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to capture the panda alive, so he took advantage of the panda's advancement to launch a sneak attack. Many thoughts instantly flashed through Yen Zhaoge's mind before he soared into the air. With a flick of his right sleeve, a streak of green light shot out from within, emitting the roar of a dragon as it instantly traversed 100 feet. His sword swept across the sky and arrived before the arrow that was shot at him, intercepted in midair. TSK, exploding spirit arrow. He's really willing to invest in it. Even as Yen Zhaoge broke the arrow with his sword, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. The arrow shot by the person who had come. It was shockingly a specially made exploding spirit arrow. This arrow was exceptionally rare, but also extremely powerful. Even if it was blocked by the opponent, it would also form a second wave of attacks, killing and injuring them. Even Xiantian martial scholars would not be able to withstand a sneak attack. It would be very easy for them to die on the spot. Having been broken by Yen Zhaoge's sword, a strong light instantly shot out from within the arrow. However powerful this arrow was, it was completely unable to do anything to Yen Zhaoge. It was just that panda was currently in the final stages of its advancement, about to be completed. If it was disturbed at this time, the consequences could be big or small. Yen Zhaoge curled his lips, shaking his head as he brandished his sword. His sword resembled a dragon as it drew a circle within the air. Where the sword light passed, scars were left behind in the air, the circle of light shining, the center resembling a vortex as it emitted an immense suction force. After that exploding spirit arrow had exploded, the numerous golden lights that were born were all absorbed into the circle of light formed of Yen Zhaoge's sword light. It was just that this way, the spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth that had originally already fluctuated due to that panda, attracted by Yen Zhaoge's sword light, instantly became even more unstable. A large amount of spiritual chi was similarly absorbed by the circle of light formed of his sword light. The winds and clouds within the sky surged as the formation was stimulated, automatically operating. Before everyone's eyes, the clouds and mist roiled, space seeming to shift and distort unceasingly as everything instantly scattered. The formation was very quickly controlled by someone, the chaotic clouds and mist quickly calming down. The illusory scenes before Yen Zhaoge's eyes returned to normal. Before him was still the forest from before, just that the tall bamboo trees resembled wheat fields blown by the wind, all of them collapsing. Tisk, why bother? Yen Zhaoge retracted his sword exasperatedly, suddenly feeling that something was wrong. Swiveling his head, he saw a plump, furry head appear before him, a pair of massive dark circles under its eyes that blinked continuously. Yen Zhaoge could not help but be rendered speechless. Ha! You've actually been transported to the same place as me. A panda the size of a small elephant scooted over to Yen Zhaoge somewhat intimately, yet also somewhat clumsily. Yen Zhaoge could not help but laugh. Ah, you big fella. Saying thus, he extended his hand, lightly stroking that panda's black and white fur. The panda extended its tongue, lightly licking Yen Zhaoge's palm. Yen Zhaoge smiled. Like that person, I also want to capture you, just that I have the confidence that even if you have advanced, I will still be able to capture you alive. The panda blinked, sticking out its tongue and licking its lips, a very human-like glow appearing within its eyes. Oh, its intelligence isn't low. Yen Zhaoge discovered that he could vaguely read the meaning of this panda's gaze. It was just that after reading it, Yen Zhaoge did not know whether to laugh or to cry. This lazy thing's gaze was probably asking, if I follow you, will I be able to eat my fill? Yen Zhaoge looked at it, amused whilst also exasperated. You're not afraid that I'll capture you in order to kill you and eat your flesh? That panda scooted over in a charmingly naive manner, rubbing its head against Yen Zhaoge in a very impolite manner. Yen Zhaoge sighed. You should also take it easy a little. If you're too good at eating, I can only drag you along to become a performer. This panda let out a light cry, resembling a human opening its mouth and smiling. Yen Zhaoge raised his head, pondering, let me think, this panda, this Pisho, what kind of food does it eat? Although it was gluttonous, especially gluttonous on all kinds of bamboo, that was merely to fill its stomach, or to be gluttonous. From what Yen Zhaoge knew, if the Pisho wanted to raise its strength, it needed to consume all kinds of fine iron and precious ores. It especially liked precious ores that were rich in the qi of yin and yang, and these kinds of things were often rather rare, as well as expensive. Compared to the appetite of this big fella before him, it was definitely a big money eater. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the Authors Hall of Glory and the general selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Also, there are some red packets and gifts on the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue subscribing. To be continued. Chapter 159. Although Broad Creed Mountain was a large clan with many businesses, raising such a big fella would still not be a problem. Moreover, Yen Zhaoge had now also obtained the right to prioritize the allocation of resources. From Yen Zhaoge's point of view, he was very happy to be a local tycoon, spending money extravagantly. However, after pondering for a moment, Yen Zhaoge thought of a material that, after being refined through a special method, could be used as food for this giant panda. Moreover, this material had a high yield and a low price, and its effects were even better than ordinary ores and refined iron. It was a perfect example of good quality and cheap. As for its name, Yen Zhaoge very mischievously prepared two alternative names. One was called Pan Pan, the other was called Fat Tiger. As for the latter plan, Yen Zhaoge's idea was to name his next pet Little Fu, and the next one, Big Xiong. These were all Yen Zhaoge's vile interests due to boredom, but there was no need for outsiders to know about them. TSK, only these two. Which one should I use? This is really a headache. Yen Zhaoge was all smiles as he looked at the giant panda before him. The extremely intelligent Pippi's huge body trembled slightly. It instinctively felt that something was wrong. Yen Zhaoge chuckled as he patted his big head before raising his head and gazing into the distance. They were still on the small island. The area was limited, so it was not difficult to find the others. Before Yen Zhaoge had even strode forward, his gaze sweeping the area as he saw a green-clothed figure in the distance currently walking over towards him. The person who had come was the young female disciple from Turbid Wave Pavilion, Zhang Yao. Seeing Yan Zhaoge and the huge yet docile and adorable giant panda beside him, the round-faced girl instantly relaxed. Senior apprentice brother, Yan has already subdued this Pixiu? Zhang Yao approached curiously. The panda lazily rolled over on the ground. It was fat and cute, giving Zhang Yao a good impression of it. Seeing this, Yan Zhaoge, grinning, he said, "I'm still young after all. I have no resistance against this kind of cuteness." Zhang Yao asked carefully, "Senior apprentice brother Yan, can I touch it?" Swiveling his head to look at the big fella beside him, Yan Zhaoge saw that it looked as though nothing had happened. "I don't resist." Therefore, Yan Zhaoge nodded, "Sure." Zhang Yao immediately cheered and leaned forward. While she was busy getting closer to that giant panda, Yan Zhaoge asked, "That person who knocked the bow wasn't a martial practitioner of your clan, right?" Coming to her senses, Zhang Yao replied, "I've let senior apprentice brother Yan see a joke. That person isn't a martial artist from our sect, and should be a martial artist from the lake region, Chu province, where this clear concealed lake is located. Although I haven't seen them before, to be able to enter the clear concealed lakes formation, they should be from a first or second-rate power that is close to our clan, or be solitary practitioners. He's probably just trying to capture this Pixiu. He hasn't discovered us, nor is he hostile." Although she was young, and her cultivation was still at the inner aura realm, this round-faced girl was a genuine core, direct disciple of Turbid Wave Pavilion, although his cultivation was not as good as hers. But in terms of status and treatment, he was the same as Xie Yuchan and Wan Ping. Yan Zhaoge could tell that Zhang Yao's experience was also rather shallow. However, to be able to become a direct disciple of a holy level force, there was no need to doubt his martial talent, potential, and strength. While Yan Zhaoge had never seen Zhang Yao in action before, just having traveled together with her, he had seen that she did not lack in actual combat experience in the area of movement and breathing. He should not be any weaker than that infinite, boundless mountain disciple, Ho Xiang, whom he had met at Cloud Portent Mountain. Hearing Zhang Yao's words, Yan Zhaoge smiled, shaking his head, "And I know. Besides, even if they knew we were there, they wouldn't be able to find us. Actually, there's no harm. This Pixiu, if your Turbid Wave Pavilion doesn't take it, then it can be considered as an ownerless object. Who can obtain an ownerless item? However, if he attacks me, then I won't show any mercy." Zhang Yao smiled slightly. "He can't compete with you, senior apprentice brother Yan." Yan Zhaoge said, "Let's go look for the others. This island isn't big. If we shout senior apprentice sister Xie, and Ahu should be able to hear us." Gradually becoming familiar with each other, Zhang Yao was no longer as reserved in front of Yan Zhaoge as she smiled. "If I shout, I'm afraid my voice still isn't loud enough." Yan Zhaoge smiled. "I never asked you to shout in the first place." Saying thus, he immediately roared towards the heavens, resembling a dragon roaring to the 9 heavens. By the side, just listening, Zhang Yao felt her heart tremble, the aura chi of her entire body becoming unstable. Senior apprentice brother Yan's cultivation base is so high, Zhang Yao was secretly speechless. While she was not very experienced, she had seen quite a few experts before. Turbid Wave Pavilion and Broad Creed Mountain were one of the 6 great sacred grounds of the 8 Extremities world. How could they not have a few Xiantian martial practitioners? However, thinking back, Zhang Yao found that of all the early Xiantian martial scholars she had seen before, there actually didn't seem to be a single one who could compare to this Yan Zhaoge before her. While they had never truly clashed, thinking back carefully, even the mid-Xiantian martial scholar Wan Ping might not be a match for Yan Zhaoge. Thinking of how Wan Ping had tried to probe Yan Zhaoge earlier, Zhang Yao couldn't help but shake her head slightly. Luckily, senior apprentice brother Wan didn't really make a move. Seeing Yan Zhaoge cease his roar, Zhang Yao said, after hearing it, senior apprentice sister Xia, and that big brother should hurry over to join us. Shall we just wait here? Yan Zhaoge didn't answer, instead looking in another direction. Zhang Yao asked curiously, Senior apprentice brother Yan, what's wrong? Yan Zhaoge laughed. There are still others on the island. When he had roared just now, Yan Zhaoge had clearly felt the fluctuations of a martial practitioner's aura qi in the distance. Then, the other party had begun approaching them, not having any intention of concealing his tracks at all. As the other party got closer and closer, Yan Zhaoge carefully felt and distinguished him, yet discovered that his martial path was neither that of Ahu nor that of Xie Yuchan. Afterwards, even Zhang Yao could feel the other party's existence, as the sound of heavy footsteps resounded by her ears. With every step the other party took, the great earth seemed to shake slightly, as though a towering, lofty mountain was walking. Infinite boundless mountain martial practitioner, late Xiantian martial scholar. Yan Zhaoge already knew what was going on. The next moment, from the distant bamboo forest, a tall figure walked out. The newcomer was around 30 years of age, a bloodthirsty glow vaguely flickering within his gaze. It was precisely Infinite Boundless Mountain's direct disciple, Lu Shengfeng. Gazing over, Yan Zhaoge saw that Lu Shengfeng was actually grabbing a person's leg, dragging that person along as he walked. The person being grabbed by Lu Shengfeng was clearly that middle-aged martial practitioner who had attacked the Pishio with an exploding spirit arrow earlier. One of the middle-aged martial practitioner's legs was grabbed by Lu Shengfeng, the other leg shockingly broken at the knee, blood flowing out in an unending stream as a long trail of blood was dragged out on the ground, soaking the fallen bamboo leaves on the ground. In Lu Shengfeng's other hand, however, was that middle-aged martial practitioner's longbow. He released the middle-aged martial practitioner's leg. Other than his broken leg, that middle-aged martial practitioner was also heavily injured in many other places, looking as though all the bones in his body had been broken. The middle-aged martial practitioner had been on the brink of death. Now that he had finally broken free, he wanted to struggle. To him, Lu Shengfeng, who was like a nightmare, squatted down. Lu Shengfeng raised his head and smiled towards Yan Zhaoge, and Zhang Yao, the bowstring of the longbow in his hands, pressed against that middle-aged martial practitioner's neck. Thank you, everyone, for your support all this time. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the author's Hall of Glory as well as the general selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, there are also some red packets and gift packs for the Fan Festival. Receive them and continue subscribing. To be continued. Chapter 160. The bowstring immediately drew a line of blood on the middle-aged warrior's neck. Compared to the pain, the pressure of the blade pressing down on one's body and death looming right before one's eyes was more despairing. The power within Lu Shengfeng's hand was not released as he raised his head, smiling towards Yan Zhaoge and Zhang Yao. It was just that smile, no matter how one looked at it, contained a bloodthirsty madness within. Zhang Yao's expression changed slightly. Infinite Boundless Mountain's senior brother, Lu. I wonder how this senior offended you. The middle-aged martial artist was no longer a threat to Lu Shengfeng, but Lu Shengfeng still wanted to kill him. After all, this was Turbid Wave Pavilion's territory, and unlike other places, the entire clear concealed lake was a blessed land occupied by Turbid Wave Pavilion. That middle-aged practitioner had also obtained Turbid Wave Pavilion's permission before he could enter. Now, not only was he heavily injured and on the verge of death, he was even more likely to be tortured to death. Zhang Yao naturally could not turn a blind eye to this. Although their cultivations were far apart, Zhang Yao, who had been taught by Turbid Wave Pavilion since childhood, did not lose her composure or panic. However, Lu Xingfeng's first sentence stunned her. He didn't offend me. I just didn't like him, so I wanted to find some fun for myself. Hearing his words, Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes slightly, appraising Lu Xingfeng once more. Zhang Yao came back to her senses. Senior Marshal Brother Lu, Lu Xingfeng smiled. What? Was it very rare? This junior sister from Turbid Wave Pavilion seems to have yet to understand that bullying others is the source of happiness. Zhang Yao frowned. How can this be? Lu Xingfeng smiled and said, Since you know who I am, then you should have heard some rumors about me, right? It is necessary for me to defend myself. That is, the rumors are not exaggerated. On the contrary, the rumors are much more conservative. Lu Xingfeng said, unhurriedly. As for me, rather than defeating opponents of the same level or defeating stronger opponents, I actually prefer to kill people weaker than me. Because it saves time, effort, and worry. You can even slowly enjoy the pleasure of killing them. When fighting against an opponent of the same level, being able to defeat or kill them is already quite good. If you want to capture them alive and slowly torture them, you might be playing with your life. That's why you have to go all out. Otherwise, you won't be able to experience a lot of fun. Lu Xingfeng glanced at Zhang Yao before lowering his head. His gaze landed on the middle-aged martial artist whose neck was being strangled by the bowstring. Didn't you ask me just now where did he offend me? He did make a mistake. This mistake is that you are weaker than me. Zhang Yao stared at Lu Xingfeng with wide eyes. Lu Xingfeng acted as if nothing had happened. People always think that bullying the weak is derogatory, but who doesn't do that? Just like you, junior sister. If you were to be alone with this person, he would have to treat you with respect because you come from Turbid Wave Pavilion, which is much stronger than his. Therefore, even if he is an early Xiantian martial scholar, and you are only at the middle inner aura stage, he will still be a head lower than you. If there's no need, I don't want to offend you. Lu Xingfeng bared his teeth in a smile. I come from Infinite Boundless Mountain, you come from Turbid Wave Pavilion, and this junior apprentice brother, Yan Zhaoge, comes from Broad Creed Mountain. The 6 great sacred grounds are lofty and lofty. If there's anything good, the priority will always be ours. The best treasures will also all be ours. At most, it will be a contest between the 6 great sacred grounds. However, it definitely won't have anything to do with the other first and second-rate powers. For example, the Extreme Een crown. Now, a sectless maiden of Extreme Een has emerged, obtaining the championship in the Extreme Een bout. Do you think that she can take away the Extreme Een crown alone? Lu Xingfeng said mildly, Isn't this bullying the weak as the strong? Those first and second-rate powers are dissatisfied with us. They say that we sacred landing-level powers are too domineering, slandering us behind our backs. It is only because they aspire to be like us, yet are temporarily unable to achieve it. Lu Xingfeng released the bowstring in his hands. Having just had a trip to the gates of hell, that middle-aged martial artist was completely drained of energy. Having already been heavily injured in the first place, his mind was no longer able to sustain it as he directly fainted. If he was stronger than me, he naturally wouldn't have ended up like this. Even if he was wary of Infinite Boundless Mountain behind me, not daring to kill or injure me, at least he wouldn't have been captured alive and beaten to death by me. Lu Xingfeng stood up, extending his leg to lightly kick that unconscious middle-aged martial artist. Lu Xingfeng smiled, because he is weaker than me, and the clan he comes from is weaker than my Infinite Boundless Mountain. Therefore, no matter what I do to him, he can only endure it. Zhang Yao wanted to say something, but Yen Zhaoge raised his hand to stop her. While I don't agree with a portion of your views, I can generally understand your thoughts. Yen Zhaoge looked at Lu Shengfeng. No wonder infinite, boundless mountain often locks you up in a cage. The smile on Lu Shengfeng's face vanished as he said indifferently, everything about the clan is good, just that it's too inconvenient, with too many restrictions. He raised his head slightly, a little out of sorts. Too many rules and regulations, too much concealment and concealment. This is clearly the life that everyone yearns for, yet they just refuse to acknowledge it. Making people unable to do as they please, very stifling. Lu Shengfeng's gaze once more fell on Yen Zhaoge, baring his teeth as he laughed. Just like before, those two trash Ji Hanru and Xiao Yu who just had to get in the way. But luckily, they're not in the way now. Yen Zhaoge's expression was calm. There's a problem. Looking straight at Yen Zhaoge, Lu Shengfeng's eyes were filled with a dangerous light. What problem? Yen Zhaoge asked. When you meet someone stronger than you who wants to take care of you, what will you do? Lu Shengfeng chortled. You mean to say that you are such a person? I heard that long roar of yours just now. Your strength isn't weak. No wonder you were able to defeat the early Xiantian Ji Hanru back then in the late outer aura stage. But to say that you're stronger than me, that's still a long way off. Lu Shengfeng tossed the bow in his hands to the side, exercising his muscles as he walked towards Yen Zhaoge and Zhang Yao. If I meet someone stronger than me, I naturally won't go up and provoke him. If the other party comes looking for me, I'll just hide as far away as I can. Lu Shengfeng said nonchalantly, seeking fortune and avoiding calamity, seeking benefits and avoiding harm. This is everyone's nature, no exception. To you, to me, to this junior sister of Turbid Wave Pavilion, it's all the same. It's just that I have a little more hobbies than others, liking to take the initiative to be the calamity and calamity of the week. Hearing his words, Yen Zhaoge could not help but laugh. Isn't it just bullying the weak and fearing the strong? Hearing his words, a smile instead appeared on Lu Shengfeng's face as he nodded matter-of-factly. Everyone is the same, no matter how brave they appear on the surface, no matter how much they face difficulties, no matter how righteous they are, they're actually all the same deep down. If they can avoid touching the strong, who would be willing to, stepping on someone weaker than them, there won't be any losses at all. If they're stepped on, so be it. What does it matter? Looking at the approaching Lu Shengfeng, Yen Zhaoge shook his head slightly. I'm not interested in reasoning with you. I'm just reminding you of one thing. The corners of Yen Zhaoge's mouth also suddenly revealed a hint of a smile that caused one to feel danger. You can very well follow your own beliefs, but when walking outside with such a mindset, you must definitely open your eyes a little more. Thank you everyone for your support all this while. This time, I hope that you will all be able to support the glorious Hall of Writers and the overall selection of works on the 5/15 Fan Festival. Other than that, the Fan Festival will also have some red packets and gifts. Receive one and continue to subscribe. To be continued. Chapter 161. Seeing Lu Shengfeng let that middle-aged martial practitioner off, Zhang Yao first let out a sigh of relief. But seeing him clash with Yen Zhaoge once more, Zhang Yao's heart suddenly leapt up. While Lu Shengfeng spoke of bullying the weak as the strong and fearing the strong as a matter of course, from what Zhang Yao knew, this person did not lack battle experience against opponents of the same level. On the contrary, Lu Shengfeng's actual combat experience was extremely abundant, virtually second to none amongst infinite, boundless mountains' younger generation martial practitioners. Senior apprentice brother Yen Zhang Yao looked at Yen Zhaoge. While Yen Zhaoge's past battle achievements seemed even more glorious than Lu Shengfeng's, this was, after all, an early Xiantian battling a late Xiantian expert. Yen Zhaoge waved his hands nonchalantly. Junior apprentice Sister Zhang, retreat lest you be affected. Worry appeared on Zhang Yao's face, but she also knew that a battle between two Xiantian martial scholars was not something she could interfere in. She could only retreat. That giant panda, who had always been by Yan Zhaoga's side, now stared fixedly at Lu Shengfeng. The laziness and indolence from before had disappeared, and a fierce glint flashed in his eyes. While its body still looked fat and clumsy, its aura had completely changed, shockingly revealing a violent feeling. Yan Zhaoga smiled slightly, patting it. "You can just watch from the side." That giant panda blinked, obediently crawling to the side, its aura vanishing as it regained its charmingly naive appearance. Swiveling his head to look at Lu Shengfeng, Yan Zhaoga said, neither hurriedly nor slowly, "With the formation on the island having been disturbed by me just now, the accumulated spiritual qi has dispersed and will not be able to gather again within a short period of time. In this battle, we can go all out, not causing any spatial changes due to the formation. We will be teleported separately." Lu Shengfeng stared fixedly at Yan Zhaoga. "You are strong, extremely strong." Honestly speaking, as a late outer aura martial scholar, defeating an early Xiantian martial scholar like Ji Hanru, this is something I cannot do. In just over a year, his cultivation rose from the late inner aura stage all the way to the early Xiantian stage. Even I can't do that. But it is precisely because of this that I really want to kill you right now. Lu Shengfeng's eyes gradually narrowed as he looked at Yan Zhaoga. "Because if I don't kill you now, I won't be able to kill you. Based on your momentum, if I let you jump a little more, you might surpass me. When that time comes, I'll have to avoid you. Just thinking about it makes me hate you." Lu Shengfeng's footsteps weren't fast, but with every step he took, the earth seemed to shake. It was as if a mountain was moving. "I really want to kill you, but not because of the matter of the giant spirit magnetite vein, where you screwed over infinite boundless mountain, to draw us into becoming enemies with the heavenly thunder hall." Lu Shengfeng pointed at himself, then at Yan Zhaoga. "I killed you only because I wanted to kill you, and not because of anything else. There's a smell on you that I don't like. I really don't like it. It makes me very uncomfortable." He retracted his finger and pointed it at his heart. "This place is telling me that only by killing you can I feel at ease." His hands behind his back, Yan Zhaoga looked like he was smiling whilst also not. He didn't speak, as though he was watching a clown amusing himself. The gaze within Lu Shengfeng's eyes grew more and more dangerous, the smile on his face vanishing as he was expressionless. "That's right. It's just like this. The more you look like this, the more uncomfortable I feel. In order to make me feel a little more at ease, I can only kill you." As he said this, Lu Shengfeng strode forward, step by step, towards Yan Zhaoga. At this moment, he had already arrived before Yan Zhaoga. With a roar, his aura rose to its peak as he suddenly punched towards Yan Zhaoga. Looking over, Yan Zhaoga could only feel as though a great mountain had collapsed before him, smashing downwards towards him. The same divine mountain fist, executed by Lu Shengfeng, was much, much more powerful than Ji Hanru's. Streams of vigorous aura qi, condensed to the point of seeming corporeal, coalesced together to form an illusory heaven and earth. The clouds and bamboo forest before Yan Zhaoga's eyes all vanished, only leaving behind lofty mountains and lofty peaks, as though he was situated within a boundless mountain. Earlier, Lu Shengfeng's speed had been slow, but now that he had truly attacked, his fist was already before Yan Zhaoga's eyes in an instant. Yan Zhaoga was not flustered in the slightest as he executed the combined attack of the turtle snake, stimulating the Shangqiu acupoint of the door of blood. A powerful explosive force resisted the suppression of the illusory heaven and earth formed of Lu Shengfeng's aura qi. Then, Yan Zhaoga abruptly moved to the side, avoiding Lu Shengfeng's fist as he exerted force with his feet, shooting forward. His power infused into his right arm aura chi that resembled numerous fire dragons and ice dragons entwining about it, resembling an iron bolt as it smashed horizontally into the center of Lu Shengfeng's body. Pum! Lu Shengfeng smiled coldly, seemingly not feeling anything at all, while Yan Zhaoge instead felt his arm go slightly numb. Infinite, boundless mountain martial practitioner's speciality in frontal attacks and defense was displayed to the point of perfection on Lu Shengfeng's body, as he resembled a giant divinity of steel. Seeing this, Yan Zhaoge raised his brows slightly. So you've cultivated in the divine mountain tyrannical body? Lu Shengfeng laughed loudly. My turn! Saying thus, he punched downwards towards Yan Zhaoge's head. Yan Zhaoge let out a ha laugh, exhaling a mouthful of turbid chi as his entire body tensed, then relaxed. Mighty ape demonic fist. His entire body seemed to have grown stronger. His muscles, tendons, and bones were all stretched out, and his blood and chi surged. He was like a god descending to the mortal world, not waiting for Lu Shengfeng's fist to land. Yan Zhaoge exerted force a second time with his arm that was pressed against Lu Shengfeng's chest, mightily jolting him into retreat. Lu Shengfeng lost his footing, and his punch missed. Letting out a furious roar, he steadied his footing and pounced forward once more. Yan Zhaoge lowered his body, punching out simultaneously with his fists, landing on Lu Shengfeng's waist and sending him into retreat once more. However, in the process of falling backwards, the other party also kicked out towards Yan Zhaoge. Relying on his foundation in the spirit rhino demonic fist and the ocean-stabilizing spirit fist, Yan Zhaoge forcibly withstood Lu Shengfeng's blow. However, as compared to Lin Zhou, Lu Shengfeng, who hailed from infinite boundless mountain, not only had a higher cultivation base, his techniques were also powerful and heavy. This forcible resistance caused the bones of Yan Zhaoge's entire body to creak as the scattered chi and blood within his body surged unceasingly. Similarly, compared to other opponents, Lu Shengfeng's ability to withstand blows was also much stronger. His divine mountain tyrannical body not being broken, having been directly hit by Yan Zhaoge's fists at his waist and abdomen, he only saw darkness before his eyes, his chi and blood fluctuating as he very quickly recovered. Both sides were unwilling to retreat, wanting to gain the initiative. After forcibly resisting the other party's attack, they immediately rushed forward once more. A red light flickered on Yan Zhaoge's face as he activated the fire tribulation of the wind fire tribulations. Come! Yan Zhaoge's voice sounded like spring thunder as he strode forward, taking the initiative to attack as he punched straight towards Lu Shengfeng. Lu Shengfeng similarly let out a muffled roar, not evading or evading as he punched over heavily, while Yan Zhaoge punched out madly, engaging in a vicious battle. He was still focused on each and every one of Lu Shengfeng's attacks, his mind not flustered in the slightest. Fighting to his heart's content, Yan Zhaoge's entire body surged with aura chi as he met fist with fist, forcibly withstanding Lu Shengfeng's iron fists. Both sides' bodies paused slightly. Then Yan Zhaoge's figure spun nimbly as he turned and elbowed Lu Shengfeng's waist, directly causing him to shrink. To be continued. Chapter 162. Yan Zhaoge's elbow struck Lu Shengfeng's waist. While the massive impact did not break through Lu Shengfeng's divine, mountain tyrannical body, it still caused his body to bend slightly. Yan Zhaoge did not stop as he immediately followed up with another blow. Within his Dantian's chi ocean, the chaotic chi mass shook as Yan Zhaoge's aura chi of fire and ice all transformed into blazing heat at this moment. Numerous fire dragons shot into the skies, the wind-fire calamities, and the mighty ape demonic fist appearing simultaneously. Yan Zhaoge's fist solidly landed on Lu Shengfeng's head. Lu Shengfeng could not change his stance in time, as his gaze grew heavy as a black light abruptly shrouded his face. Late Scientian martial scholars, not only could their orochi form an illusory heaven and earth, it could also circulate as they wished, quiet like a lofty mountain, moving like shocking thunder. As this thought arose, the power of his entire body flowed smoothly. The power of Yan Zhaoge's fist was violent to the extreme, as even Lu Shengfeng felt shocked upon seeing it, as though he could already see the scene of his head exploding. He raised the power of his divine, mountain tyrannical body to the maximum, focusing it on protecting his head. Only then was he able to forcibly withstand this fist of Yan Zhaoge's. Even so, a loud boom resounded within the air, as though a mountain had been forcibly broken apart from its base. Lu Xingfeng's tall body was actually sent flying by this fist of Yan Zhaoge's, flying backwards at an inconceivable angle as he slammed heavily onto the ground. The great earth within a radius of several hundred meters was completely shattered, a massive crater having been smashed out, countless green bamboos all reduced to smithereens. Lu Shengfeng was greatly enraged as he roared, about to flip over and get up. Divine, mountain tyrannical body, able to take a beating? Yan Zhaoge's figure flashed, not waiting for Lu Shengfeng to get up. He was already before him, grabbing hold of one of Lu Xingfeng's ankles. Lu Xingfeng's other leg swept out, which Yan Zhaoge dodged, before abruptly extending his hand. A thick crimson, yellow light suddenly flickered on Lu Xingfeng's body, transforming into armor that enveloped his entire body. It was a low-grade spirit artifact. However, a green light flashed within Yan Zhaoge's eyes. The jade dragon sword directly pierced into the other party's armor. Releasing the jade dragon sword, Yan Zhaoge took out the purple gold thunder sword and stabbed it into Lu Xingfeng's armor. Then, under Lu Xingfeng's somewhat dazed gaze, the flying thunder saber also stabbed in, although they had all escaped from Yan Zhaoge's hands. However, 3 spirit weapons were entangled with Lu Xingfeng's armor, causing it to be unable to be of any use for a moment. Don't spoil my mood. I very rarely use this style of fighting. Yan Zhaoge smiled, his smile even more ferocious than Lu Xingfeng's. Rise! He grabbed Lu Xingfeng's ankle with one hand and his arm with the other. He shrugged his shoulders and straightened his back. Yan Zhaoge directly lifted Lu Xingfeng's massive frame high into the air. Because among those with similar levels of cultivation, there are very few who can take a beating. Yan Zhaoge let out a roar towards the heavens, resembling the roar of an enraged dragon. Pausing slightly, he smashed Lu Shengfeng heavily into the ground. Like a 1,000-kilogram boulder falling from a landslide, Lu Shengfeng collided with the ground, producing a roar that sounded like iron and stone colliding. The ground, which was already like a deep pit, continued to sink. It continued to shatter in all directions, almost turning into a small basin. The island they were on seemed to be shaking slightly. Yan Zhaoge's figure did not cease as he chased after Lu Shengfeng, following up with another kick to his lower abdomen. Having just landed on the ground, Lu Shengfeng leapt into the air, once more tumbling to the side. A muffled sound seemed to resound in the air as a black light flickered on Lu Xingfeng's body before it dissipated with a loud boom. Wah! Lu Xingfeng's face suddenly turned snow-white as a mouthful of blood uncontrollably spurted out. His divine, mountain tyrannical body had been forcibly broken by Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge exercised his neck a little. He flicked his wrist. You're a pretty good punching bag. Thank you for letting me fight to my heart's content today. Clenching his teeth, Lu Shengfeng swallowed the fresh blood that surged up once more as he said, hatefully, my divine mountain tyrannical body and the great chaotic elements palm have yet to be fully mastered. I am unable to use them together. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to break through my defenses. Hearing his words, Yan Zhaoge chuckled coldly, You're blaming me for not mastering your martial arts to perfection? Saying thus, Yin Zhaoge stretched his muscles a little, walking towards Lu Shengfeng. Right. Just now, you said that you wanted to kill me? Striding forward, he was already before Lu Shengfeng. Roaring furiously, Lu Shengfeng punched towards Yin Zhaoge. Yin Zhaoge's body had already reached its peak. His body flashed, avoiding Lu Shengfeng's iron fist, his lower body kicking out. A long breath resounded within the air, resembling the roars of dragons and tigers. As he kicked out, the sound of air exploding resounded, resembling the fury of thunder, as though a massive, ancient divinity had descended into this world, wanting to break a great mountain with a single kick. Lu Shengfeng's expression changed, as he immediately changed his stance, his entire body's aura-chi merging as one, resembling an insurmountable obstacle. Infinite boundless mountains direct, lineage, great chaotic elements palm. Sadly, the current Lu Shengfeng was already a little strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Yin Zhaoge's expression did not change as he kicked heavily on Lu Shengfeng's knee. At the same time, his iron fist punched out once more, as though another thunderclap resounded between the heavens and the earth. One up, one down, two heavy blows from opposite directions. The heavily injured Lu Shengfeng was unable to withstand it even with the great chaotic elements palm. His body was directly knocked askew, unable to maintain his balance, as he fell to the ground once more, consecutively suffering Yin Zhaoge's full-powered attacks. Even with Lu Shengfeng's strength, he was also unable to bear it as he spat out a mouthful of blood once more, falling to the ground as he struggled, unable to get up. On the other side, that giant panda opened its mouth and let out a few soft cries. While its voice was low, it was unable to conceal its joy. It was as though it was cheering for Yin Zhaoge. Having been brought to the side by Zhang Yao, that heavily injured, middle-aged martial practitioner was jolted awake. Seeing this scene, he let out muffled sounds. While he couldn't speak, he was excited to the extreme. Zhang Yao was left wide-eyed and tongue-tied. No wonder he was able to defeat the early Xiantian martial scholar Ji Hanru as a late outer aura martial scholar back then. Perhaps she lacked actual combat experience, but as a core, direct disciple of Turbid Wave Pavilion, Zhang Yao did not lack in discernment and knowledge. Infinite boundless mountains direct lineage geniuses, having their divine mountain tyrannical body and great chaotic elements palm forcibly broken through by others were not unheard of. However, an early Xiantian martial scholar, forcibly breaking through the divine mountain tyrannical body of a late Xiantian martial scholar of infinite boundless mountain, and also being a genius descendant of infinite boundless mountain on the level of Lu Shengfeng, this was definitely a miraculous story under the heavens. Afterwards, breaking through Lu Shengfeng's great chaotic elements palm like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves was instead something that was easier to accept. After all, Lu Shengfeng had already been injured at the time. However, before this, not relying on any spirit artifacts, just relying solely on his own cultivation to break through Lu Shengfeng's divine mountain tyrannical body, Yin Zhaoge's strength could already no longer be described as terrifying, as it had completely surpassed Zhang Yao's imagination. The late Xiantian martial scholar Lu Shengfeng had been defeated by Yin Zhaoge, and as Zhang Yao knew, her senior apprentice sister Xie Yuchan had also only ended in a draw with Lu Shengfeng. That was to say that the early Xiantian martial scholar Yin Zhaoge had actually surpassed Xie Yuchan, so powerful. The round-faced girl almost unconsciously muttered to herself. To be continued. Chapter 163. Yin Zhaoge came before Lu Shengfeng. Lu Shengfeng crouched on the ground, and a strange black light suddenly flashed in his eyes. He lowered his head as if hesitating. Feeling Yan Zhaoge's killing intent that he did not conceal in the slightest, Lu Shengfeng suddenly raised his head, a humble to the point of almost flattery appearing on his face. "You are right, these eyes of mine indeed cannot recognize a true dragon. I was thinking that it won't be long before I'm inferior to you. So, if I want to make a move, I'll have to do it now. But reality has proven that I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. There's no need for the future. I'm already no match for you now. From the very beginning, I should have avoided you." Lu Shengfeng sincerely said, "You are a magnanimous person. Please don't argue with me." The panda's droopy eyes seemed to be unable to understand the situation in front of it. Zhang Yao and the middle-aged martial practitioner were dumbfounded. Was this something a late Xiantian martial scholar could say? Were these words that a core, direct disciple of the mountain domain's sacred ground, infinite boundless mountain, could say? Was this something that the arrogant, cruel, and domineering Lu Shengfeng could say? However, Lu Shengfeng didn't seem to mind this in the slightest, and his words were incomparably smooth. "I'm willing to offer up this low-grade spirit artifact, the lofty mountain armor, as an apology gift." He paused for a moment before continuing. "Of course, you can also get the lofty mountain armor if you kill me. However, I have some savings over the years. Although they may not be very precious, there are still some rare items that I can offer to you." Yan Zhaoge looked at Lu Shengfeng, not speaking. Lu Shengfeng smiled kindly and said, "You don't have to worry about future troubles if you let me go. You also said that I bully the weak and fear the strong. I know you're stronger than me. How could I possibly go up there and try to break a rock with an egg? I can't wait to avoid you. In the future, wherever you appear, I'll definitely kill you." I immediately retreated. "You are the new Yan Wudi. In the future, you will be like your father and your sect senior, Han Tianzun. You will become a famous figure. I'm just a small character. You don't have to take it to heart. Just treat me as a fart and let me go." Lu Shengfeng spoke very quickly, as though afraid that if he spoke any slower, he would be slaughtered by Yan Zhaoge. Zhang Yao couldn't stand it anymore. He could not help but say, "You are not just representing yourself. You are a disciple of infinite boundless mountain." Lu Shengfeng laughed and said, "I am the shame of our sect. If I can survive today, I am willing to accept any punishment from our sect when I return to the mountain. But right now, there's no need to bring up our sect. In any case, this junior apprentice brother, Yen— oh, no, it's senior apprentice brother Yen. In any case, senior apprentice brother Yen won't have any misgivings about this. If he thinks I'm threatening him and gets even angrier, then wouldn't my life be in danger?" Zhang Yao was flabbergasted. He looked at Lu Shengfeng speechlessly. Lu Shengfeng no longer looked at her, instead turning to look at Yan Zhaoge as he struggled to get up, slapping himself a few times with his hands. "I deserve this. I deserve it. I only ask that you spare my life." Yan Zhaoge looked calmly at Lu Shengfeng. "Didn't you say earlier that you would feel unhappy just looking at me, and that you only needed to kill me? Would that make you feel better?" Lu Shengfeng hurriedly slapped himself twice. "Senior apprentice brother Yen, I was just spouting nonsense. Please don't take it to heart. I have always been extremely respectful towards those who are stronger than me, obedient and submissive. I only ask that you spare my life. Don't kill me. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it." Yan Zhaoge did not answer, instead reaching out to grab the jade dragon sword still embedded within the lofty mountain armor on Lu Shengfeng's body before giving it a shake. The purple gold thunder sword and the flying thunder saber shook together. The jade dragon sword complemented each other. At this moment, Lu Shengfeng was powerless to move. While the lofty mountain armor on his body had been activated, it was unable to stand against a spirit artifact controlled by Yen Zhaoge as it instantly disintegrated. This lofty mountain armor naturally has to be given to senior apprentice brother Yen. Lu Shengfeng didn't mind it in the slightest. Zhang Yao opened her mouth, but didn't utter a sound. That was a spirit artifact. Even direct disciples of the sacred grounds like her, Si Kongqing, Chao Yuanlong, Xiao Yu, and Li Jingwan were also unable to obtain spirit artifacts. A high-grade or mid-grade precious weapon was the standard. Generally speaking, direct disciples of sacred grounds would only be bestowed with a spirit artifact after they had reached the Xiantian martial scholar realm. Those who had yet to reach the Xiantian stage, yet possessed a spirit artifact, were either people like Yen Zhaoge, Xiao Shun, or Lin Zhou who had a unique background while out adventuring, or people like them who came from extraordinary backgrounds. Whether it was the former or the latter, they were both extremely rare. Even so, to martial scholars, spirit artifacts were also treasures that were as precious as their lives. Although Lu Xingfeng's life seemed to be currently in Yen Zhaoge's hands, such a reaction from him still left Zhang Yao stunned. As for that heavily injured, middle-aged martial practitioner beside her, he was even more jealous and bitter. The power that he came from, of the entire clan, only had a single spirit artifact, which was worshipped as their clan's guardian treasure. After taking apart Lu Xingfeng's lofty mountain armor, Yen Zhaoge suddenly laughed. "You have some trump card, right? However, I have no interest in seeing what your trump card looks like." Saying thus, the jade dragon sword in his hand flickered with sword light. Lu Shengfeng stared. A majestic sigh suddenly resounded within the air. Yen Zhaoge was also rather familiar with this voice. It originated from Infinite Boundless Mountain's elder, Shan Sherwing. Misfortune of the clan, misfortune of the clan, ah. Above the small island, the winds and clouds fluctuated as a massive hand that resembled a mountain extended out, emanating a massive suction force as it sucked Lu Shengfeng in. Shan Sherwing had not come personally. This was the miraculous effect produced by the activation of the formation by the experts of Turbid Wave Pavilion. Not only had Shan Sherwing seen everything that had just happened, the bigwigs of the other clans had also seen it. Even Shan Sherwing, who was experienced in the martial world, felt his face burning at this moment. Losing face, all the way from clear, concealed lake, all the way back to Infinite Boundless Mountain. This child will be watched over strictly, not letting him cause any more trouble. This old man can vouch for it. Shan Sherwing sighed as he said to Yen Zhaoge, "This little friend, Yen, if our clan's disciples have offended you, please do not take it to heart. We welcome you to Infinite Boundless Mountain as a guest again." This last sentence also indicated that there would be compensation. Senior is polite. Yen Zhaoge didn't really care much about compensation. Comparatively speaking, he wanted to slaughter Lu Shengfeng even more. To put it bluntly, this person was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong, being shameless and without skin. Looking at it from another perspective, he could also be said to be someone who could stretch and retreat as needed, able to act like a big boss, also able to act like a grandson. When he lost power, groveling and bending his knees. When he gained power, he was savage and brutal. After a short while, Ahu and Xie Yuchan also arrived. After learning of what had happened, Ahu bared his teeth, a pity that it happened on Turbid Wave Pavilion's territory, a pity that Infinite Boundless Mountain's bigwigs intervened. Otherwise, even if he was someone of Infinite Boundless Mountain, he wouldn't have been able to come and go. Hearing this from the side, Xie Yuchan and Zhang Yao exchanged bitter smiles. This time, Lu Shengfeng definitely won't have the face to participate in the Heavenly Connection meet. After hearing Zhang Yao's description, Xie Yuchan sighed in admiration as she looked at Yen Zhaoge. "Junior brother Yen, you are even stronger than the rumors say. In this time's Heavenly Connection meet, even with senior brother Sue and the others participating, you have also become a unique talent. Chapter 164. At the same time, I will continue to ask for subscriptions and monthly votes. Please support this book. Thank you. In terms of cultivation, it wasn't that there weren't those participating in the Heavenly Connection meet this time who had a higher cultivation base than Yin Zhaoge, and there would even be Heavenly Connection martial practitioners amongst them. Although Heavenly Connection state martial artists were mostly in seclusion and rarely ventured outside, the Heavenly Connection meet was still a special situation. Especially now that the overall situation of the Eight Extremities world was rather tense, this time's Heavenly Connection meet was even more important. In terms of strength, the current Yin Zhaoge might not necessarily be able to come out on top in the Heavenly Connection meet, where heroes gathered. But for him to be able to defeat the late Xiantian martial scholar Lu Shengfeng with his early Xiantian martial scholar cultivation in the entire Heavenly Connection meet, he was probably the only one who had done so. After all, Lu Shengfeng was not an ordinary late-stage Xiantian martial artist. Regardless of how this person was in other aspects, in terms of martial cultivation, he was ultimately of the direct lineage of the mountain domain's sacred ground, infinite boundless mountain. Even if several ordinary late Xiantian martial scholars ganged up on him, they might still be defeated by him alone. At the very least, if Xie Yuchan were to go up against Lu Shengfeng, she would have a 50-50 chance of winning. Victory or defeat would depend on her performance on the spot. Therefore, looking at Yin Zhaoge at this moment, Xie Yuchan was truly filled with admiration, while Zhang Yao beside her had a look of admiration on her face. In keeping Lu Shengfeng's lofty mountain armor, Yin Zhaoge having left this treasure where it was, Shan Sherwing had tacitly agreed that it belonged to Yin Zhaoge. Tisk, if I were to open a spoils of war exhibition and display all the signature weapons of the core heirs of the various clans, it would be cool, but would I be beaten up for being too arrogant? The corners of Yin Zhaoge's mouth twitched as he kept the items, smiling towards Xie Yuchan. Senior sister, Xie overpraises me. Surveying their surroundings, looking at the messy island, Yin Zhaoge said rather apologetically, "This is much greater than the destruction caused by that big fella over there." The panda nudged him with an innocent look in its eyes. Xie Yuchan said, "No matter. The root of the problem lies with Lu Shengfeng. Our clan's seniors will naturally negotiate with Infinite Boundless Mountain's senior Shan Sherwing." This matter was settled. The group then prepared to return to Clear Concealed Island. When they returned this time, everyone sat on the giant panda. This silly fellow was not afraid of strangers and carried everyone on the water. The only exception was the middle-aged martial artist. The giant panda also held a grudge. It remembered that the other party had shot it with an arrow at the last moment of its advancement. However, even though he didn't carry him on his back, he summoned a stream of black water in front of him and lifted him up, bringing him back to Clear Concealed Island. This middle-aged martial practitioner came from a power that was close to Turbid Wave Pavilion. Having received permission from Turbid Wave Pavilion to enter Clear Concealed Lake to seek fortuitous encounters, yet something had happened on the surface of Clear Concealed Lake. Turbid Wave Pavilion would have to at least give some sort of response. Moreover, this person's injuries were too severe. If he wasn't treated in time, it was inevitable that he would lose his life. Thus, Xie Yuchan decided to bring him back to Clear Concealed Island. Sitting on the back of the panda, Zhang Yao was full of interest, and Ahu grinned. After all, it was rare to see a Pichio. Yin Zhaoge, on the other hand, was rather conflicted as he looked strangely at the panda beneath his bottom that resembled a small elephant. The style is really a little strange. Yin Zhaoge carefully appraised the others. The others didn't seem to mind. Instead, they were quite interested, which made him feel a little better. Yen Zhaoga asked Xie Yuchan, Senior Apprentice Sister Xie, do you have scarlet flame iron and cold light iron here? Xie Yuchan answered, they are all very common ores that produce a lot. Although there aren't any veins in the area around Clear Concealed Lake, there are some stored on Clear Concealed Island. You need them? Yen Zhaoga nodded. I'll have to trouble Senior Apprentice Sister Xie to help me contact some. In terms of price, I won't let your clan suffer a loss. Xie Yuchan looked at the panda. Smiling, she said, you want to feed this big fella? Then you'll have to prepare some more. Yen Zhaoga smiled bitterly. Isn't that so? As they chatted and laughed, they returned to Clear Concealed Island. Yen Zhaoga took his leave of Xie Yuchan and Zhang Yao, bringing along Ahu and that panda, returning to the bamboo house that he resided in. Ascending to the second floor of the bamboo house, he saw a figure already within his room. The other party stood by the window, gazing at the distant surface of the lake. As Yen Zhaoga ascended the stairs, he turned, Zhaoga, you're back? The visitor had a refined, scholarly appearance, 3 long strands of beard hanging down to his chest. It was precisely Fang Zhuan. Yen Zhaoga greeted Fang Zhuan, second apprentice uncle. I already know about the matter with infinite, boundless mountains, Lu Shengfeng. The fault does not lie with you. There is no need to take it to heart, Fang Zhuan said. This time, I have come for another matter. Yen Zhaoga nodded, quietly listening to Fang Zhuan continue speaking. Fang Zhuan said slowly, regarding that decimating abyss organization that intends to cause trouble in the Earth domain, the Heavenly Thunder Hall has obtained a major clue. Yen Zhaoga's expression froze. Slightly. Decimating abyss? Fang Zhuan nodded. That's right. This organization has infiltrated even deeper than expected. Not just those martial practitioners who are dissatisfied with our 6 great sacred grounds. Even within the 6 great sacred grounds, there are also their people. Yen Zhaoga's pupils abruptly dilated as he heard Fang Zhuan continue. This time, the Heavenly Thunder Hall discovered members of the Decimating Abyss organization within their ranks, obtaining a lot of useful information. The Decimating Abyss's goal is to have that legendary 9 underworlds descend into the 8 extremities world. Fang Zhuan's current expression was also rather solemn and gloomy. Yen Zhaoga's expression was similarly solemn, many thoughts flashing through his mind. In the Earth domain, there very possibly really exists a crack in the passageway that leads to the 9 underworlds. However, for some unknown reason, there is some kind of power that has suppressed and blocked this crack. Yen Zhaoga knit his brows. The ultimate goal of the people of the Decimating Abyss is indeed to open that crack, drawing the descent of the 9 underworlds. The evil devils are proficient in bewitching people's hearts, drilling holes in their hearts, finally transforming into devils. However, they are also proficient in concealment, being hard to guard against. The ghost hatchet elder Han Sheng, from the looks of it, is still only a little extreme, not really resembling a true devil. People like him want to change the current situation of the 6 great sacred grounds, changing the heavens and changing the earth, fighting for a new future. Originally a martial practitioner of the 6 great sacred grounds, what is it for? Having desires in their hearts, they were then bewitched, unceasingly magnifying their desires, slowly drowning within. Yen Zhaoga's mind was filled with countless thoughts. After he had collected them, he looked at Fang Zhuan. While this matter was of great importance, Fang Zhuan still patiently waited for Yen Zhaoga to digest this information. Seeing that Yen Zhaoga had regained his wits, he continued, while the Heavenly Thunder Hall did not say it, our information channels in the Thunder Domain indicate that it was Lin Tianfeng's handiwork that uncovered the Decimating Abyss spy concealed within. Just based on this, he holds an even greater advantage in the internal competition for the position of the Heavenly Thunder Hall's next Hall Lord. Yen Zhaoga narrowed his eyes. Lin Tianfeng was the father of the thunder, rumbling young Master Lin Zhou. Yen Zhaoge looked at Fang Zhuan. The Heavenly Thunder Hall has obtained a great deal of beneficial intelligence. Does it include the identities of the spies of the Decimating Abyss organization within the other 5 great sacred grounds? That's right. Fang Zhuan nodded, his voice gentle. Also, during this time's Heavenly Connection meet, at this clear concealed lake, the Decimating Abyss is going to cause trouble once more. Chapter 165. Hearing Fang Zhuan's words, Yen Zhaoge let out a long breath. During this time's Heavenly Connection meet? Fang Zhuan said, "It was only recently that I learnt that a water vein that flows into clear concealed lake originated from the Earth domain." Yen Zhaoge stroked his lower chin. Other than us of the younger generation who are participating in the Alliance meet, the clans all have their seniors leading them to hold down the fort. This small, clear, concealed lake can actually be considered to have experts as common as the clouds. It's not a place that just anyone can easily invade, Yen Zhaoge said softly. If the Decimating Abyss dares to make a move, that means that amongst the martial grandmaster experts leading the troops this time, there will definitely be some of them. Fang Zhuan smiled slightly. Also, as the host, being able to control the formations here, that person from Turbid Wave Pavilion definitely has a problem. He smiled as he looked at Yen Zhaoge. Perhaps I too have a problem. Similarly looking at Fang Zhuan, Yen Zhaoge smiled. Then I can only pray that you will be fine. Otherwise, I will immediately lose my life. Even if I have a problem, I won't kill you so easily, Zhaoge. Fang Zhuan could not help but laugh as he shook his head. If there was a problem with me, it would also be to deal with junior apprentice brother Yen, and not just to make things difficult for you. However, I feel like your talent and potential are going to surpass yours. Fang Zhuan sighed. In 10-odd years, no, perhaps only a few years is needed, everyone will have to face your existence. Face you squarely just because you are Yen Zhaoge and not Yendi's son. Yen Zhaoge smiled. Second apprentice uncle praises me to the point that even I feel embarrassed. Fang Zhuan smiled, returning to the main topic. The Decimating Abyss wishes to have the 9 underworlds descend into the human realm. The nature of this matter is just as vile as that of the Flame Devil world, being the public enemy of the entire 8 Extremities world. Right now, we are in a standoff with the Flame Devils, and we still have a slight advantage. Although the Flame Devils are violent and aggressive, they are no longer as unbridled as before. However, if the 9 underworlds descend, the 8 Extremities world will be attacked from both sides, with the Flame Devils making use of this chance to attack as well. Yen Zhao nodded his head. That's right, no eggs remain intact when the nest is overturned. That's why the Heavenly Thunder Hall shared this intelligence with us 5 great sacred grounds so straightforwardly. Of course, I guess that our clan, Jade Sea City, and Infinite Boundless Mountain will have to pay a considerable price in order to obtain this information. He looked at Fang Zhuan. Fang Zhuan smiled. That's right, this is a very normal thing. Yen Zhaoge raised his head slightly, thinking for a moment. It would not be too convenient for Jade Sea City to pursue the matter of Linzhou and One Line Edge now. Earlier on, news had come from the Heavenly Thunder Hall. Not just Yen Shan. Even Linzhou had confirmed that he would not be participating in this time's Heavenly Connection meet. In the battle for the Eye of the Thunder Emperor, having been injured by Yen Zhaoge, Linzhou had finally been forced to flee via the blood-transforming flowing light jade. Even though he had successfully broken out of the encirclement, he had suffered a loss of vital energy and blood, adding injuries on top of his previous injuries. It would be difficult for him to recover in a short period of time. Even if he were to participate in the Heavenly Connection meet, it would be hard for him to do much. Other than that, Jade Sea City was also eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey, waiting to ask him about the matter of One Line Edge. However, there was such a thing. Even if Jade Sea City wanted to pursue this matter, It would not be good for them to do so forcefully. Although the information from the Thunder Territory indicated that the traitor who destroyed the decimating abyss was the handiwork of Lin Zhou's father, Lin Tianfeng. However, Yan Zhaoge was 90% certain that this definitely had something to do with Lin Zhou. Ha! A big move, ah! Yan Zhaoge clicked his tongue in praise. The Heavenly Thunder Hall has gained greatly this time. Other things aside, Turbid Wave Pavilion owed the Heavenly Thunder Hall a favor this time. In the current internal affairs of the Eight Extremities world, under such a delicate situation, Turbid Wave Pavilion's stance was biased. Too sensitive. Yan Zhaoge swiveled his head to look at Fang Juan. Oh, after talking for so long, second apprentice uncle, who is the spy of our broad Creed Mountain? In this time's Heavenly Connection meet, who are the martial grandmasters with problems? I've already sent a message back to the clan, Master, and the others will naturally deal with it. Fang Juan reported a name, before adding, the Heavenly Thunder Hall only knows of this one person. As for whether there are others, that is still unknown. Our clan still cannot let down our guard. Yan Zhaoge nodded. That is indeed the case. Fang Juan continued. As for this time's Heavenly Connection meet, other than the one from Turbid Wave Pavilion, there should have originally been 3 others. The Heavenly Thunder Hall should have originally been led by someone from the decimating abyss, but they have already been dealt with. Yan Zhaoge smacked his lips. That is to say, there should have originally been 4, more than half of them. One of them could even control the geography of the place. Indeed, there really would have been a chance of success. Fang Juan said, not just the spies. Members of the decimating abyss outside of the 6 great sacred grounds will also launch a surprise attack here this time, stirring up trouble together. In order to catch as many of them as possible in one fell swoop, other than that spy of the Heavenly Thunder Hall whose identity has already been exposed, we did not alert the other decimating abyss experts whose identities have already been exposed. However, even more experts of Turbid Wave Pavilion have already arrived here to lay an ambush. He looked at Yan Zhaoge. Instead, it is you main characters who are participating in the Heavenly Connection meet who have to be careful when things truly happen, evading in time. Yan Zhaoge smiled. I feel that we are already no longer the main characters. If not for wanting to avoid alerting the enemy, we could actually just disband, going home on our own. Fang Juan said mildly, the Heavenly Connection meet is still the Heavenly Connection meet. Like you, Zhaoge, early Xiantian, defeating a late Xiantian infinite boundless mountain direct lineage, didn't you boost the momentum of our broad Creed Mountain once more just now? If the other side wants to make a move, they will also require some time to prepare. Actually, if it is not too dangerous to you youngsters, this would instead be the best tempering. Yan Zhaoge smiled slightly. These words make sense. Fang Juan stood up, heading outside. There are also many things on our side that still require preparations. Zhaoge, it's good that you know what to do. Make your own preparations. Something unexpected could happen at any time. Rest easy, second apprentice uncle. I understand. Yan Zhaoge sent Fang Juan off before calling Ahu in, letting him know. Ahu stared wide-eyed. Young master, the time for you to perform a meritorious deed has come again. Yan Zhaoge rolled his eyes. I really don't want to rely on being bait to perform a meritorious deed. However, what is worth consoling is that this time there will be a bunch of people accompanying me. Xie Yuchan very quickly brought over the Scarlet Flame Iron and Cold Light Iron. After Yan Zhaoge had processed them with a secret technique, the task of raising the giant panda was handed over to Ahu. Young master, what are you busy with then? Ahu asked curiously. Yan Zhaoge snapped his fingers. Cultivating. Something major is about to happen. To do a good job, a worker must first sharpen his tools. Ahu felt that his brain was a little lacking, but the Heavenly Connection meet is about to begin. What are you cultivating for in such a short period of time? Ah. Yen Zhaoge smiled, not speaking. Previously, he had been afraid that his cultivation speed would be too fast, arousing the suspicions of others. However, now that the situation was special, he would just have to be flexible a little. Yen Zhaoge lightly touched his right eye with his finger. Anyway, he already had an excuse that couldn't be any better. Coming to the window, looking at the clear, concealed lake that was shrouded in mist and clouds, Yen Zhaoge's gaze turned a little distant. 9 underworlds. Chapter 166. Yen Zhaoge had already consumed the broad, Creed Divine pill as soon as he had obtained it. This pill could increase the spirituality of a martial artist's stellar energy, making it easier for a martial artist to perceive the world. The effect seemed simple, but it was very powerful. Even if a great grandmaster martial artist consumed it, it would have endless benefits. If a grandmaster martial artist consumed it, the effects would be even more obvious. In truth, martial scholars were basically unable to completely digest the medicinal power of the broad Creed Divine pill. The medicinal energy of the medicinal pill would remain in the cultivator's body, flowing over a long period of time. It would take effect for a long time, helping the cultivator cultivate. As the highest grade pill that Broad Creed Mountain currently possessed, even the experienced and knowledgeable Yen Zhaoge was rather in awe of its medicinal effects. Yen Zhaoge was currently seated in the meditative position, the clear qi within his dantian spreading outwards as the chaotic qi mass roiled, hot and cold alternating, yin and yang coexisting, resembling the furnace of the heavens and the earth as it unceasingly refined the medicinal power of the broad Creed Divine pill. Guided by Yen Zhaoge's aura qi, the medicinal force unceasingly dispersed throughout his limbs and bones. The acupoints of Yen Zhaoge's entire body pulsed, streams of qi that resembled numerous fire dragons and ice dragons roiling unceasingly. The energy really took the shape of a dragon. The scales on its body moved, and it was filled with spirituality as it let out waves of deep and grand dragon roars. Yen Zhaoge opened his eyes, the light of thunder abruptly flashing within. The fragment of the sacred artifact, the Eye of the Thunder Emperor, appeared within Yen Zhaoge's right pupil. The Eye of the Thunder Emperor flickered. The flickering light was like the beginning of the primordial chaos. A bolt of lightning descended, splitting the heavens and earth. At this point, all things gradually came into being, and the great 1,000 worlds evolved and changed. White clouds and gray dogs, the sea turned into mulberry fields. The endless river of time surged, seeming like an instant, seeming like an eternity. Yen Zhaoge and the Eye of the Thunder Emperor were connected mentally. It was as if he had also felt the intent of 1,000 lives and deaths in that instant. While the heavenly thunder was fierce and ferocious, it was unable to leave behind any traces within Yen Zhaoge's mind in the slightest. Yen Zhaoge closed his eyes lightly before opening them again. In the blink of an eye, however, it felt as if billions of years had passed. At this moment, Yen Zhaoge felt that his connection with the Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment had clearly advanced a step further, even to the point of having a telepathic connection. Yen Zhaoge let out a light yell. All of a sudden, there was a surge of lightning and a loud explosion. Outside the bamboo building, in the skies above Clear Concealed Island, amidst the roiling clouds, there seemed to be an explosion, and a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky. Hung long, 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 long. The sound of thunder in the sky and on the ground resonated as if it was the beginning of the primordial era. Around Yen Zhaoge's body, numerous azure dragons formed of aura qi pulsed. As their scales pulsed, numerous bolts of lightning shooting out from within. Dense electric arcs were jumping in the small bamboo house. When they gathered together, it was like a sea of lightning. The lightning surged violently, yet it did not harm the small building in the slightest. the astral energy dragons opened their eyes one after another, and all of them flashed with radiance. It was as if they were painting a dragon's eyes, full of spirituality and vitality. The illusory dragons turned into real dragons. Yen Zhaoge extended a palm, pushing forward horizontally. Astral energy azure dragons coiled about, transforming into primal chaos. No beginning and no end. There was no front or back. Although it was an illusory scene formed from stellar energy, one could still vaguely sense the profound concept contained within it. This was precisely the illusory heaven and earth formed of Yen Zhaoge's fist intent. Orochi forming an illusory heaven and earth was precisely the mark of a mid-Xiantian martial scholar. Yen Zhaoge smiled slightly. His palm changed, turning completely red as the illusory scene of primal chaos formed of his Orochi also changed, turning completely purplish red. Amidst the clumps of purple flames, a pill furnace was indistinctly visible, seemingly real. Yen Zhaoge's palm changed slightly once more, his index and middle fingers forming a sword as he lightly tapped out with them. The purplish-red tusset of fire and the pill furnace disappeared, his Orochi intermingling to form an illusory dark, starry sky. Above the night sky, 7 stars hung high, illuminating the north. Yen Zhaoge retracted his palm, striking out with the 6 spirits' demonic fists one after another. The illusory heaven and earth formed of his Orochi seemed to have returned to the primordial times, with numerous powerful beasts rampaging about, tyrannical to the extreme. Finally, accompanied by Yen Zhaoge's retraction, all the scenes vanished, everything returning to primal chaos and nothingness. It was as if it could give birth to all things, could contain all things, could extinguish all things. Yen Zhaoge let out a long breath, standing up and leaving the small bamboo house. Who was currently playing with that giant panda. Seeing Yen Zhaoge, he couldn't help but ask, "Young master, that heavenly thunder just now was caused by you activating the fragment of the Eye of the Thunder Emperor?" Yen Zhaoge smiled. "That's right. I consumed the broad Creed Divine pill to stabilize my foundation, deepening my accumulations, gradually reaching a bottleneck in my cultivation. Then, comprehending the concept of the Eye of the Thunder Emperor, I comprehended it and successfully took a step forward." Ahu opened his mouth. "Young master, you just stepped into the early Xiantian martial scholar realm at Cloud Portent Mountain a while ago. Stepping into the mid-Xiantian stage. So quickly. Even family head wasn't as ferocious as you that year." Yen Zhaoge reached out and tapped his right. It was a fortuitous encounter. It can be considered a pleasant surprise." Who gave Yen Zhaoge a thumbs up. "Even if it was fortuitous encounter, it was also something that you, young master, could only have obtained with your own ability." Yen Zhaoge glanced at Ahu. "Oh, Ahu, your expression is becoming more and more sincere in your flattery now." Ahu gave a simple and honest laugh. "It's all thanks to young master's spurring. I often practice in front of a mirror." He patted his big head. "Right, young master, the heavenly rock has arrived." "Oh, senior apprentice brother Su has arrived?" Yen Zhaoge chuckled. "At senior apprentice sister Xie's place, right?" Who also chuckled. "After meeting Elder Fong, he came over to young master's place. Seeing that you were in seclusion, he slipped away like a wisp of smoke to Miss Xie's place." Exchanging glances, the two laughed mischievously. "There's something going on." Yen Zhaoge smiled. "Come, let's go take a look." Su Fei was 30 years old this year, much older than Lu Wen and Yen Zhaoge. He was currently already a heavenly connection martial scholar, only a step away from the martial grandmaster realm. Generally speaking, heavenly connection martial scholars were mostly in secluded cultivation, rarely venturing outside. However, the Sacred Sun clan had been continuously losing face recently. In order to regain it, in this heavenly connection meet, they had sent the head of the four rising suns, Tang Yonghao. Tang Yonghao was also already a heavenly connection martial scholar. Su Fei participating in the heavenly connection meet this time was specifically to guard against Tang Yonghao. Arriving outside the bamboo house where Xie Yuchan resided from far away, Yan Zhaoge's nose twitched as he smelled the fragrance of wine. Then, outside the bamboo house, before a stone table in the small courtyard, two people sat facing each other. One was Xie Yuchan, while the other was an extremely tall, burly man. This man had thick brows and big eyes, a straight nose, and a square mouth, looking extremely mighty. His gaze was deep, his aura like a mountain. While he was young, he exuded a lofty aura. It was just that this man's current actions were a little strange, smiling as he held a wine flask, currently pouring it into a cup. Looking carefully, there were clearly tea leaves within the teacup in front of that man. From the looks of it, he was actually going to brew tea with wine. To be continued,